This time he became quiet all over. The skull was stitched up again with such master craftsmanship that you couldn't tell it had been opened earlier. The Taoist robe man picked out a vertebrae from the pile of bones and said, "If Master turns your bones into a divine sword, you might well get your vengeance." As he spoke, the Taoist robe man twirled the vertebrae into a sword flower, using it to trim 2 stray nostril hairs, and glided away on the knife edge. In that moment, 3 expressions flashed across his face. He seemed like a tailor, a doctor, and more like a Taoist, yet not quite human. A silent night fell, returning heaven and earth to tranquility. By the roadside, the bamboo forest was tranquil. A row of simple wooden shacks blocked half of the already narrow road, making a business of selling liquor. It was the only tavern within 100 miles, and its sign read, "Wine is like fire, 3 bowls and you're down." Little Ian couldn't help but say, "Brother, let's drink. I'm thirsty." Duan Yun muttered, "Are you planning to have 3 bowls and slack off on not crossing the ridge?" "Not at all, I'm really thirsty. We've been hurrying for 2 days and nights. I'm about to fall asleep standing." "All right then, you can have a little drink," Duan Yun said, riding her into the rundown tavern. In fact, he also wanted a drink himself. After sitting down, Duan Yun ordered the wine, saying, "Give me 10 bowls of your signature wine first." The waiter couldn't help but remind him, "Master, our wine is strong. If you plan to stay the night, there's no bed available in our inn." "Who said I'm staying here? Serve the wine quickly. I've got to hit the road after I'm done." Duan Yun replied, "Young master, drinking at this hour won't get you past Green Jade Ridge," the waiter said as he brought the bowls of wine. "What's this, you have tigers on your ridge?" Duan Yun remarked. Indeed, when he saw the slogan on the sign, he couldn't resist a quip. "Tigers? No tiger big enough for you fearless martial world heroes to feast on. There are snake demons on the ridge, green and white, active at night. Even disciples from major sects can't survive the night there," the waiter explained. Duan Yun couldn't resist quipping again. "Green and white snake demon? Where did you come from?" He hasn't had any wine yet, but already feels like he's fallen into the convoluted plot of a third-rate web novel. Seeing Duan Yun's disbelief, the waiter quickly reminded him, "Young master, it's not a trick. Those who didn't believe are no longer alive." He's uttered these words countless times. So many uninterested spirits could essentially surround the bamboo forest. Other tables in the tavern also had people who seemed like martial world wanderers. They obviously wouldn't take the risk lightly but were hoping someone else would, making it fodder for their next meal conversation. "Thank you for the warning." Confronted by the waiter's kind advice, Duan Yun didn't want to refute him, so he responded. The tavern still served up 10 bowls of wine, 2 plates of fennel beans, and a plate of braised chicken feet. The fennel beans were a bit shriveled, and the chicken feet somewhat dark, but together with the wine, their aroma was quite pleasant. Little Ian was already tempted beyond measure, but seeing Duan Yun unmoved, she dared not eat. As the mount of the old demon, she was aware of her duties. Duan Yun waved a hand, saying, "Go ahead, drink and eat." Upon hearing this, Little Ian quickly picked up a bowl of wine, gulping it down while grabbing a chicken foot to shove into her mouth. Clearly, she was famished. Originally a little beauty with the potential of incredible grace, she now ate like she was fighting for food with hungry cattle and horses. Yet, even in her tattered clothes with messy hair, resembling a beggar, and with ungainly eating habits, Little Ian emitted an irresistible allure. Especially after downing 3 bowls of wine, her cheeks started to flush slightly, adding to her striking beauty. The waiter couldn't resist taking another glance when bringing over the food. "What are you looking at? Haven't seen a beauty before," Little Ian snapped. "Apologies, miss. I meant no offense." The waiter hurriedly turned away to avoid suspicion. "You meant no offense, but why turn away? Unclean thoughts." The waiter showed an expression of distress. As soon as this expression appeared, Little Ian seized it, saying, "What are you thinking? Speak first," but no thinking aloud. At this point, The waiter was ashen-faced and wanted to leave right away. Why are you leaving? Feeling guilty? Speak first, no matter your thoughts, it's useless. This lady is his mount. Ridden day and night, without rest. Little Een boomed. The waiter was caught between staying and leaving, causing him to cast a pleading glance at Duan Yun. With a thud, Duan Yun pressed Little Yin's head onto the table, saying, "Apologies. She's drunk. You can go back to your work." The waiter felt relieved as if pardoned and quickly slipped away. Duan Yun pulled Little Yin's head up, scolding, "Why do you change after drinking? Learning all the wrong things, following the shadow. Shadow? You're the one who's ridiculous. Riding all day and night, irrespective of exhausting people. How cruel when I'm so young." Saying this, tears welled up, with her spectacle of ridiculousness. The other patrons who were initially frightened turned to clenching fists and gritting teeth. This man is truly a beast. Duan Yun perceived that she was somewhat drunk, promptly gulped down the remaining 7 bowls, grabbed the remaining chicken foot, and stuffed it into Little Yin's mouth, signaling her to proceed onward. The waiter, seeing this, said, "Guest at this hour." Duan Yun waved his hand, indicating not to worry about it, and insistently rode on Little Yin's back again, pulling on her twin ponytails to make her continue on the road. Little Yin looked like she was about to collapse, maybe because the wine made her reveal her true feelings. Tears of grievance even rolled down her eyes. To others, Duan Yun's behavior naturally seemed downright beastly. If you ride a man or a less attractive older woman, even if you ride them to death, they wouldn't say anything. But why, you beast, treat a beautiful young girl this way? However, no one dared to speak up for Little Yin. In the martial world, anyone who dares to ride a woman through like this naturally has skills. But at this moment, some people's eyes gradually filled with evil thoughts, because they saw Duan Yun drink 7 large bowls of wine in a row. Those who often drank here knew that the wine from Green Jade Ridge was intoxicating not only because it was strong but also because it contained knockout drugs mixed in. Actually, knockout drugs work quite well for aiding sleep. The doctors from Jiangzhong sect love adding them to medicine. The wine in this tavern contains knockout drugs not to harm, but to earn more money, even to save people. Jianghu people drinking, they easily get carried away while drinking. Once carried away, they would want to imitate heroes and brave Green Jade Ridge at night. Isn't that just risking their lives? Better let them sleep in this tavern's inn for a night and earn some money from the overnight stay. The evil thoughts arose among the tavern people precisely because Duan Yun drank 7 large bowls of such wine. These types of people are not to be messed with when they're not drunk, but when they're knocked out. Wouldn't that just be creepy? Creepy. Creepy. Little Een walked on the road, still swaying left and right. Duan Yun couldn't help but pull her twin ponytails harder. Little Een couldn't help but retort, "Are you still a person? Still pretending?" Duan Yun retorted back. The next moment, Little Een couldn't help retorting, "You can see through that? Nonsense, you don't look drunk at all." Little Een instantly returned to normal, looked at the sky, and said, "Do you think the stories about the snake demon in the mountains are true?" "We'll know soon enough," Duan Yun said with keen interest. He had always been quite curious about whether there were demons or ghosts in this world, because over the past few years, he had traveled to many places and had learned that this wasn't an ordinary martial hero world. The skeleton within the lion's belly in the snow mountain was indeed proof of the possibility of demons and ghosts in this world. Young hero Duan was already filled with heroic spirit, and now, after drinking so much wine, he was even more spirited and exuberant. If there were tigers in the mountains today, then he would be Wusong. If there were Bai Nyangzi and Qing, then he would be the great majestic heavenly dragon. Little Een twitched her nose and said, "There are a few in the tavern who are not good people. I feel they've been watching us." Duan Yun raised an eyebrow and said, "Is it odd for such a handsome young hero like me to be stared at? Attitude. Huh. Maybe it's the masters from the White Sox sect coming to get you." Little Een analyzed. Duan Yun laughed back, "Young master waits, just afraid they won't come to get me." At this moment, Duan Yun glanced at Little Yin's snow-white neck, suddenly remembered a question, and said, "Little Een, do you have any siblings?" Visibly, goosebumps rose on Little Yin's neck, and she replied, "No." Indeed, at this moment, the question felt like the King Yen questioning her, scaring away her drunkenness. Duan Yun couldn't help but let out a cold laugh and said, "You can't even lie properly. Don't worry. This young hero is kind-hearted, doesn't easily slaughter entire families." Little Yin's face showed a look of shock. "This method you call not easily slaughtering entire families?" Unknowingly, it was about to get dark, and they were already in Green Jade Ridge. For a moment, Little Yin's eyes were filled with mist. Would there be a green and white snake demon? Would her whole family be slaughtered? The martial world is vast and never lacks places rumored to be haunted. Just like the graveyard outside Yuju Manor used to be constantly haunted, with tales of wandering scarecrows. Yet after the demon-slaying conference and the Green Dragon incident, many died during bloodshed, and the area became peaceful. This Green Jade Ridge is also a haunted place, and from the reactions of people in the tavern, it certainly has its strange occurrences. After all, on their journey, Duan Yun and Little Een both noticed there were tales following them. These tales likely included spies from the White Sox sect, and more were curious Jianghu people looking on. Everyone knows that where the young hero Duan goes, there is bound to be bloody turmoil that purifies heaven and earth, promising excitement to watch. Yes, having debuted only 2.5 years ago, young hero Duan has already stirred up quite a few major events, satisfying many bloodthirsty spectators. He just committed a great crime in Qingzhou. No, he just violently cleansed Qingzhou of evil, and with some instigation, became the most dazzling figure on the scene. If placed in a previous life, he would be a top reality star. Duan Yun has become accustomed to this kind of high profile like a firefly in the dark. But strangely enough, as soon as they entered the forest of Green Jade Ridge, the followers disappeared. This clearly indicates the possible presence of danger here. As Jianghu people, how could anyone miss out on the spectacle? If you don't even have the courage for this, how can you be a bloodthirsty audience member? At this moment, a hidden bloodthirsty storyteller in the tavern looked at the direction Duan Yun was riding away with Little Een and had already decided on the story title. Old Demon Duan fears Qingzhou experts, disregards the danger of the snake demon, and flees overnight. This clearly proves the old demon is severely hurt, truly severely hurt. Within Green Jade Ridge, there are countless bamboo groves and cliffs. Some bamboo roots are exposed out of the soil, twisting like worms. As the sky darkens, the wind blows, and the bamboo grove rustles, reminiscent of countless snakes hissing. The liquor-induced haze on Little Een and Duan Yun's mind cleared significantly. Even possessing formidable martial prowess, Duan Yun had to admit that deep-seated human fear always existed. Honestly speaking, this bamboo cliff, with leaves piled on the ground, easily reminds him of scenes from horror movies. More precisely, scenes from old zombie films. As they continued walking, Duan Yun suddenly tugged on Little Yin's twin ponytails, looked up and said, "What's that?" Little Een followed his gaze upwards and saw something really placed on the cliffside. Couldn't help but wonder, "A box." Duan Yun added, "I feel it's more like a treasure chest." Though the chest was on the cliff, the height wasn't too high, and the branch of a nearby crooked-necked wild tree could even reach there. This area is at the border between Qingzhou and Yu State, and this path is considered a shortcut to Yu State. No one traverses this road at night, but during the day quite a few do. With such a big chest placed here, hasn't anyone pulled it down to take a look? This reminded Duan Yun of the 2 times with boxes in water, so unsurprisingly. His curiosity rose again, like having an itch chased by a cat's claw. Thus, Duan Yun said, "With such a big treasure chest, why hasn't anyone opened it?" Little Een couldn't help but retort, "You also want to open this kind of box? What's wrong with you?" Even though she's a newbie in the martial world, Little Een isn't completely ignorant. Even she knows such boxes generally can't be opened. It's obvious there's a problem here. Duan Yun asked, "You don't want to open it?"
No.
Little Een replied decisively. Duan Yun decisively said, "Then you open it." This wasn't negotiation. It was command. Even for her, as a mount, it was the master's task. Littleine cursed Duanyun's family for 18 generations in her heart, but still didn't dare defy her fate, climbed onto the tree, and prepared to move the treasure chest down. As the crooked-necked tree's branch swayed, Littleine, this oxen and horse, already carried the large chest down. The chest itself was of excellent quality, likely made of Nanmu wood, with finely carved peony patterns on it. At this moment, Duanyun rode back on Littleine, signaling her to open the box. Doing this for the first time, Littleine felt an indescribable tension, saying, "Couldn't you be a little closer?" Duanyun said, "Getting closer would mean I'd be riding on your neck." Littleine looked back at his crotch area and said, "I don't mind, do you? If you don't mind, why should I?" With that said, Duanyun was already riding on her neck. Having someone so close, Littleine felt like she was almost one with old demon Duan, hence gaining more security. "Open it confidently. I'm here with my dual masters of sword and saber to protect you," Duanyun encouraged. The last time opening a chest remained just a memory, but the excitement with surprises from this kind of chest opening still lingered. Normally, the nights at Green Jade Ridge are very eerie. Only Duanyun and Littleine are fearless enough to be there. But at this moment, there was one more person. The bloodthirsty storyteller wanted to gather more dark stories about old demon Duan, so gritted his teeth and entered the mountains. The sky hung with a pale moon, and within the bamboo grove, a bone-chilling cold permeated. This storyteller had already peed twice and felt the need again. He's had back problems since childhood, with a reed tube inserted by the divine doctor from Jiangzhong sect for leaking urine. He shouldn't be working so hard, but to bring old demon Duan to ruin and for the honor of the bloodthirsty storytelling sect, he was determined to continue. After walking a bit more, the storyteller stopped, crouching behind a cluster of bamboo. He saw people. Crack, crack. The edges of the box's lid were smeared with some kind of grease, sticking tightly. If not for Little Yin's innate divine power, it would have been difficult to open. At this moment, the lid of the box was cracked open, and Little Yin's hand suddenly stopped, because at this time, through the gap in the box, they saw a pair of shoes. Red embroidered shoes. The embroidered shoes, reflecting the ghastly pale moonlight, were as bright as blood. A woman. Is it also Shadow? In Duanyun's mind, the first image was of Shadow Ying. Littleine couldn't help but twist her head, but her neck was held by Duanyun, making the movement subtle. She couldn't help but ask, "Do we continue to open?" Such a pair of red embroidered shoes, even for her as a newcomer in the martial world, felt a bit horrifying. "Continue," Duanyun ordered. Forced by her master's task, Littleine could only continue to open the box. Duanyun couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. Last time when he opened Xinying's box, he had to do it himself. Now he has some help. It must be said that this box gave off the same eerie feeling as when he opened Xinying's box last time. Littleine gritted her teeth, used her great strength, and swiftly flipped the lid off. Then the contents of the box revealed its true form. Indeed, it was a woman. Another woman, Duanyun muttered. This woman, in a blood-red dress, had skin that was deathly pale, exuding wisps of cold that made it hard to distinguish between life and death. What was more striking was that she was wrapped in red ribbons all over her body. The red ribbons tightened her skin, as if fearing she would break free. Littleine stepped back 3 steps and remarked, "This is a zombie." "Such a pretty zombie?" Duanyun responded. "If you called her a voluptuous corpse or a red-dressed ghost, that would be more believable than a zombie." "The lines on her body are talismanic lines," Littleine said. The Jade Guanyin had seduced countless men, and those who left a deep impression often wrote diaries and recited them for her daughters. Littleine, being the first to become aware, had heard this saying. Her mother had brought back a young man from the Huang family in Wanling, and although compelled, he fell in love with the beautiful Jade Guanyin. He told Jade Guanyin everything he knew, including the Huang family's cultivation technique and corpse walking skill, hoping to move her. But eventually, due to his looks not being outstanding enough, he was not made into a specimen by Jade Guanyin. Through this, Little Ian also heard about zombies, which are divided into many types, with most considering the water and fire impervious green-haired zombie or the particularly ominous red-haired zombie to be the most terrifying. And this type, often tied with talismanic lines, is typically the predecessor of a red-haired zombie, inherently ominous. Even if it hasn't grown ominous red hair, it's a rather horrifying existence. Is that so? At this moment, Duan-Yun actually moved away from her neck and moved closer. Little Ian felt the sensation on her neck disappear, leaving it feeling somewhat empty. Upon hearing that the beautiful corpse was actually a zombie, rather than Shin Ying's type of shadow, Duan-Yun felt some disappointment. This box is not satisfactory. The things it produced are not satisfactory. Soon after, he discovered that the red ribbons on the corpse indeed had issues, leaving red powder-like marks on that pale skin. And the thickest part of this red ribbon was at the back of her neck. Duan-Yun pulled this corpse up slightly, discovering that the red ribbon surprisingly emerged from the flesh at her neck. At the boundary where flesh and line met, there were 3 copper coins. As he shook the corpse, the 3 copper coins spun around on the red ribbons, producing a tinkling sound. Little Yin's complexion changed immediately, exclaiming, "It's over!" The symbolic coins moved. Almost at the same time, there was a crisp snapping sound. The red ribbon snapped, and the 3 copper coins shot out like darts. Duan-Yun stretched out his hand and recovered all the coins. Meanwhile, the corpse in the box had already opened its eyes and mouth, revealing sharp fangs. Duan-Yun found that she indeed had faint, ominous red hair appearing on her body, laden with an unlucky aura. With a swish, a red shadow swept out. Duan-Yun raised his blade to block. It turned out to be the zombie's claw, incredibly strong, making even Duan-Yun's hand holding the blade shake somewhat. Indeed, it wasn't just any red-haired zombie. Its strength surpassed even Little Yin's innate divine power. With a thud, the female zombie broke out of the box, her whole body bouncing, striking towards Duan-Yun. Duan-Yun flipped over, using a heart-to-heart clasp, and directly clamped the female zombie's waist. This caused the zombie's rapidly bouncing body to slow down. It only slowed, not stopped, because zombies have a different energy mechanism than humans, making them hard to pin down. At this moment, whether it was the bloodthirsty storyteller hiding behind bamboo or Little Ian, both were shocked and terrified by the scene. The bloodthirsty storyteller felt his scalp tingle and said, "This old demon Duan truly isn't human, daring to provoke even a zombie." Yet, he was also very excited because of the rumor about the ominous red-haired zombie, believed to be a descendant suppressing the martial world for ages. Presumably old demon Duan wouldn't come out unscathed. At this moment, Duan-Yun's figure spun, and he was already riding atop the female zombie's neck. His fists delivered a pincer attack, smashing into the zombie's temple. With his cannonball-like punch force, even thick iron pieces would shatter, but the zombie's head was incredibly solid, not shattering with just resonating sound. After that, the female zombie reached up to grab him, and Duan-Yun clamped her wrists. Instantly, both sides fell into a struggle of strength. Young hero Duan likes to defeat opponents in the areas they take pride in. This female zombie is strong. Does it mean young hero Duan's muscles aren't developed? For a moment, the female zombie couldn't break free from Duan-Yun's grip, so she jumped excitedly. Her jumping was in a straight line up and down, with a very fast frequency, making Duan-Yun feel as if he was riding on grandfather's father is called grandfather. At this moment, 2 heads eerily peeked out from above the mountain wall. 2 women's heads with beautiful appearances. On their heads were hairpins, one silver-white in snake form, and the other green snake. Upon seeing this, both women simultaneously stuck out their tongues. With tongues swirling exceptionally agile, resembling snake tongues, they revealed a seductive expression. "Sister, tonight is lively. Someone dared to touch that box. Ching. If he gets bitten and turns into a zombie later, let's use him as a toy." "Zombie toy, sister, you're playing quite extravagantly. Ah, he's really strong." The bloodthirsty storyteller had been highly vigilant and also noticed these two women's faces. Green and white snake demon. The red-haired zombie wanted his life from the front, while the green and white snake demon were eager at the back. Old demon Duan is doomed. The bloodthirsty storyteller, with a face full of fanaticism, excitedly sprayed a string of urine from the reed tube at his waist. Little Lean looked terrified and said, "Should we take turns?" As soon as she spoke, she regretted it. Old demon Duan encountering trouble now. She was happy, even seeking opportunities to backstab and launch a sneak attack. How could she help? Did she really consider herself his mount? Duan Yun shook his head and said, "No need." As soon as he finished speaking, Duan Yun's legs immediately tightened. True Qi intertwined with his muscles like steel wires, unleashing a twisting squeeze. With a loud slap, the momentum was astounding. The zombie, originally incredibly strong, was twisted and fallen to the ground, its head twisted to the back of its neck. This is too violent. Little Een and the bloodthirsty storyteller simultaneously felt their hearts tighten, secretly sighing. If this were a human, they would have long since died from such injuries. But this female zombie, true to being a zombie, struggled to get back up. Duan Yun flipped his body, crouched halfway, and his fists instantly transformed into a blur, pounding towards the female zombie's head like cannonballs. The female zombie, having her head turned 180 degrees, couldn't even manage to bite in response. Her head was bombarded with over 50 punches in an instant, causing it to cave in and emit plumes of white smoke. Suddenly, the female zombie exerted herself, jumped up from the ground with a height of nearly 20 zhang. Under the moonlight, her blood-red dress fluttered gracefully. If not for the face and buttocks facing the same direction, and the rear head filled with smoking holes, there was an exotic beauty to her. At this moment, she seemed to suddenly notice something, and in a descent, she pummeled a patch of bamboo with a thunderous crash. Right after, a miserable scream sounded. The lurking, bloodthirsty storyteller was grabbed by the female zombie. A brief flash of intelligence appeared in the female zombie's eyes. Seeing this, Duan Yun spoke, "I am the one who hit you. Don't accidentally harm others." The bloodthirsty storyteller quickly replied, "He's right." As soon as he finished, the female zombie bit him on the neck. In a moment, blood from the storyteller's neck and urine from the reed tube flew together, leaving a face full of fear and pain. Seeing this, Duan Yun angrily said, "How dare you disobey young hero's orders, courting death?" The female zombie realized Duan Yun couldn't be offended, so without hesitation, she jumped away with the bloodthirsty storyteller. This leap again reached 20 zhang high. If it wants to leave, no master can stop it. Fire Fist. Lu Mountain ascending dragon dominance. Duan Yun, in anger, the heroic fire lotus blossomed into 16 strange fists united in a series, the fist power soaring into the sky. The terrifying fist power smashed into the heroic fire lotus, instantly transforming into a roaring fire dragon, sweeping towards the female zombie. With a loud crash, the fire fist pierced through the towering body of the female zombie. Her iron-like body immediately shattered and fell. Among the debris, a protruding piece from the chest landed on Little Yin's shoulder, burning her with a yelp, while another piece spun like a top on the ground, constantly emitting smoke. The bloodthirsty storyteller fell down, and Duan Yun immediately grabbed him. Looking at the bloody and mangled neck, Duan Yun said, "Rest assured, as long as you haven't stopped breathing, you won't die." As Dr. Duan, with the compassionate heart, Duan Yun promptly began treating. When the demon electricity entered the storyteller's neck, all he felt was a mighty resistance rising in his blood, as if trying to weigh down his blood. Is this infection leading to zombification? With Dr. Duan here, zombification is prohibited. Duan Yun couldn't help but increase the intensity. The bloodthirsty storyteller trembled more vigorously. For a moment he felt he was going to die, yet could live again. But the next moment, Duan Yun's electricity ceased. The bloodthirsty storyteller spat blood and said, "Why stop? No, no. I haven't even swayed public opinion to say you're dead. How can I die?" The next moment, as the storyteller slightly lowered his head. He knew he was finished. The violent shaking earlier had shaken out the book filled with black materials on Old Demon Duan. Duan Yun looked at the phrases saying Old Demon Duan fears the Qing Zhou masters, ignoring the snake demon danger, fleeing overnight. This indisputably proves Old Demon is severely injured. Truly severely injured? And said, "Are you a storyteller?" The storyteller responded with a bitter expression, "Is it too late to change careers now?" Duan Yun sighed, "Your zombie venom has no cure. To prevent you from turning into a zombie in the future, young hero will send you on your way." With that, another punch blasted out, turning the not yet fully transformed storyteller into fireworks. In the air, the storyteller fixed his gaze on where the green and white snake demon had just been, shouting with all his might, "Old Demon severely exhausted, severely injured, severely injured." From where the green and white snake demon had been, the two snake demons could be seen rapidly scurrying away. "No, don't run. Severely injured. Severely injured." After dealing with the zombies in the box and the not yet fully transformed male zombie, Duan Yun gently exhaled and wiped the sweat from his forehead. It's undeniable that this red-haired female zombie is formidable, actually making him break a sweat. According to Little Een, this zombie hasn't fully matured yet, with not much red hair, essentially still a juvenile. If a juvenile could make him sweat, facing a mature one would surely be even tougher. Especially in a direct clash of strength, this young zombie surprisingly held its ground against him. Fortunately, his skills were superior, and his fire fist had a restraining effect on such creatures. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been this easy. As for the man who was also smashed apart, Duan Yun initially intended to save him, but unfortunately, the man insisted on spreading rumors, even writing them down. In that case, you could say he was tired and had no strength to save him. To prevent the spread of the corpse poison, he opted for merciful destruction. Thus, only pieces of corpses baked by heroic fire remained in this bamboo grove. The body of the red-haired female zombie was indeed peculiar. Though made of flesh and blood, it gave a metallic sensation. Especially the two blocks on its chest that fell to the ground, they looked just like two bowls at first glance. After such an intense fight, Duan Yun considered himself warmed up, his fighting spirit boiling. So, he mounted Little Een and said, "With all this commotion, why hasn't the green and white snake demon shown up yet?" He really wanted to see what the green snake and white snake of this world were like. If they had the strength like in previous life TV dramas, he'd definitely need to be more cautious. Yes, even though he now possessed the ability to absorb moonlight, shoot sword chi from his fingers, cultivate Dharma image, absorb death energy, envelop himself in breaking body sword energy, and deploy the electromagnetic sword field, he still belonged to the realm of martial arts. The green snake and white snake, however, were in the realm of Xianxia, immortal hero tales. For a moment, Duan Yun's eyes became much more steady as he ordered, "Little Een, use your nose and see if you can detect any trace of the green snake and white snake." Steady as he was, gaining knowledge and watching the excitement were still more important. Throughout his life, he hadn't yet seen a snake demon. Little Een wiggled her nose, inattentively replying, "Nothing detected." In the next instant, there was a crackling sound, and a charged finger strike hit Little Qing's white back. "Little Een, let's see where your limits lie," Duan Yun commanded. Twitching from the electric shock, with two shivers afterwards, Little Yin's face showed a mix of pain and pleasure. This guy is truly an animal. You must admit, with that lash, Little Een felt a sense of clarity and relief. Sometimes pain itself can be somewhat pleasurable, especially when inflicted by Old Demon Duan. She began to sniff seriously again, responding, "You've just killed a person and zombies here. The smell is very mixed. Bird smell, rat smell, human smell, blood, zombie smell. Wait, there is indeed a bit of snake smell." Little Een raised her head, bounded elegantly up the mountainside with Duan Yun on her shoulders, landing on a protruding platform above. There was a wild bamboo grove atop the mountainside. By now it was completely dark. Moonlight sprinkled down, while the dark areas of the bamboo grove were so black that you couldn't see your hand in front of your face, seemingly hiding many man-eating goblins. The ground had some indistinct traces, but they didn't look like a snake's. Littleine sniffed and said, "The scent is very faint. It might be hard to track." There was another crackling sound, and once more an electric finger struck, causing Littleine to let out a muffled groan. "Is this the extent of your limits?" Duan Yun questioned. Littleine, as if drawn out like a whipped donkey, replied painfully, "Brother, you've just finished a fight. Can you not be so passionate?" Littleine had no choice but to keep following the tracks. After walking 100 or so steps, they found themselves deep in the wild bamboo grove. By this point, you really couldn't see your hand in front of your face, and Duan Yun felt a sense of lostness, involuntarily holding onto Little Yin's twin ponytails. In such an environment, even with traces, it would be hard to investigate, let alone now that the tracks had completely disappeared. The ground was layered with accumulated bamboo leaves, carrying a rotten smell. Even though Littleine lightened her steps, they still made a rustling sound. The wild bamboo grove was very quiet, as if only these footsteps left the rustling sound. At the moment, this rustling sound seemed quite eerie, both like someone whispering underground and like a snake flicking its tongue. Though Littleine had a keen nose, she ultimately hadn't received proper training, and the snake's scent wasn't as pungent and obvious as Hua Wu's one, so she could only move forward step by step based on her intuition. If at the start she was really perfunctory, after being whipped a few times by Duan Yun, it was like she was brainwashed, wanting to see where her limits lay. Actually, this was also a form of cultivation. Being used as a mount by an enemy or constantly having one's physical potential exploited by an enemy was also part of her cultivation journey. In the martial world, there was always a saying, "Beautiful women must endure various hardships and cultivation to truly become martial world fairies." This process is called the fairies' cultivation. As they walked, Littleine and Duan Yun indeed discovered something. In front, the bamboo forest was sparser. Moonlight like frost illuminated a broken wall. From here, at the end of the bamboo forest, there appeared to be a house. Under a tree in front of the broken wall, there was a shrine, but without any deity statue. Yet in front of it was scarlet candle wax, indicating it had been worshipped by someone. Such a scene appearing at night in the deep mountains and forests, the ghostly atmosphere was indeed very intense. Duan Yun pulled Little Yin's ponytail with one hand, signaling her to keep moving. The eerie and terrifying atmosphere seemed to instantly revert to the moment when they opened the box earlier. Littleine wished that Duan Yun would ride on her neck again. A man and a woman passed by the broken wall and the shrine, and the silhouette of an old forest house was already appearing ahead. Duan Yun had to admit, this place looked like the most haunted house since Yuzhu Manor. The wooden door and walls of the house were covered with moss, looking like sinister faces of ghosts. Two red lanterns, long wet and rotten from the rain, swayed in the wind, full of eerie ghostly vibes. Littleine pushed the door, and it wasn't even locked, swinging open instantly. In sight was a courtyard, filled with weeds half a man's height, causing Littleine to unconsciously step aside. On the ground there was a dead toad. This kind of environment easily harbors snakes, and at this moment, Littleine smelled a stronger snake stench. After carrying Duan Yun about 50 steps forward, even Duan Yun smelled the strong snake stench, let alone Littleine, who had a keen sense of smell. A road-worn hall lay in front amidst the wild grass. At Duan Yun's request, Littleine continued forward. Just as they approached the hall, Duan Yun suddenly stretched out his hand. Two poisonous snakes slithered out from under the eaves, not even having the chance to bite before being pinched by Duan Yun. Duan Yun twisted his fingers, as sword chi erupted, and the snakes were thrown to the ground, already dead. These snakes had triangular heads and green-yellow patterns all over, clearly very poisonous. By this time, Littleine had reached the entrance of the hall. The next moment her breath almost stopped. Littleine was quite afraid of snakes, even if she had the ability to easily kill them. And at this moment the hall had quite a few snakes. The roof of the hall had collapsed on one side, and the pale moonlight shone down, revealing a truly shocking scene. At first glance, there were hundreds of red and green poisonous snakes. More horrifying were the corpses inside the hall. Inside the hall were corpses, some old, some new. The old ones were mere skeletons and the new ones still hung with flesh, faces full of holes due to the snakes slithering in and out. About 100 skeletons almost covered the entire floor of the hall. They became beds for the poisonous snakes. The whole hall was a nest for these snakes. The snakes sensed the presence of Duan Yun and Little Een, turning their heads. They weren't afraid of people, instead rising up, sticking out their tongues, looking fierce. Looking at the room full of corpses, Duan Yun couldn't help but say, "Truly apocalyptic evil. These should be the travelers who disappeared on Green Jade Ridge." Duan Yun tugged Little Yin's twin ponytails, signaling her to go inside. Little Een gritted her teeth and walked in. In the next moment, all the snakes closed in. Suddenly, a sharp whistle sounded. Yes, a whistle coming from a snake. It was a rather thick poisonous snake, with a red crown on its head, looking like a commanding general. What terrified Little Een more was that as the whistle sounded, all the snakes in the hall surged towards them. The snakes were going to kill. Little Een instinctively crouched to tear apart the attacking snakes. But before she could, a humming sound suddenly rang above her head. The sound was like a swarm of bees vibrating their wings, not loud, but very dense. In the next moment, more dense than the vibration was the flying sword chi. Death chi breaking body sword energy. As the breaking body sword energy flew from Duan Yun, it quickly merged with the death chi of the surrounding corpses, turning ominously black. The snake swarm charged in, met instantly by the cracking sound. Crack, crack, crack. Silken breaking body sword energy erupted from Duan Yun, rushing towards the attacking snakes. If the snakes surged like a wave, then the breaking body sword energy from Duan Yun was the same. The two waves clashed instantly, biting like living creatures. The breaking body sword energy stabbed the attacking snakes into 1,000 gouges, their blood turning into mist as soon as it appeared, shredded by the dense sword chi. The leading snake saw this, swung its crown, and whistled again. It seemed to realize Duan Yun's prowess, thus ordered again. The previously fierce snakes began retreating towards the corpses and the ground. Seeing this, Duan Yun exclaimed, "Trying to escape?" Saying this, he wrapped himself in breaking body sword energy and leaped. In Little Yin's eyes, he had already turned into a sword man. "Jump!" At Duan Yun's command, he had already slammed onto the ground, the black breaking body sword energy rippling out like waves. Only then did Little Een realize the jump was meant for her, quickly getting up and leaping. As she jumped, the sharp breaking body sword energy flew past her feet, carrying a terrifying chill. After Duan Yun landed, the sword chi around him dispersed like ripples, transforming him from a sword man into a man. But as he jumped again, the sword chi encircled him once more, changing him from a man back into a sword man. Thud! Thud! Duan Yun landed 4 times, each time sending out waves of sword chi. Where the ripples passed, poisonous snakes were pierced through, dying with countless wounds. Apart from the first time, Little Een no longer needed to remind. As Duan Yun landed, she also jumped up, working in unison. Under these dense and sharp sword chi assaults, the snakes were nearly all killed or wounded. Yet one snake managed to survive. It was the poisonous snake leader with a crown on its head. It seemed to have intelligence. Each time the sword chi ripple came, its body would leap to avoid it, its reaction speed not much slower than Little Yin's. After dodging the 4th wave of attacks, the snake leader jumped, burrowing into the mutilated face of a corpse, trying to escape amidst the chaos. Duan Yun had been watching it all along and kicked with a toe sword. With a snap, the toe sword shattered the corpse, and the injured snake leader flew out. After it landed, it still struggled to flee, but this time, Duan Yun had already arrived, his fingers clamping onto the snake's weak point like lightning. Between his fingers came a slippery, cold sensation. Indeed, this snake was worthy of being a leader with such attributes. Under Duan Yun's powerful finger strength, normally even a python would weaken if its weak point was gripped, but this crowned snake continued to fiercely twist its body, attempting to bite Duan Yun. Duan Yun's remaining left hand reached out, aiming to grip its triangular head. Who would have thought this was a feint? Yes, the snake fainted, and Duan Yun's right hand was suddenly empty, because at that moment, the chicken-crowned snake twisted and broke its body, choosing to break free and escape. Duan Yun was aware of lizards sacrificing their tails to survive, but it was the first time he encountered a snake sacrificing its body for survival, severing at its most vulnerable weak point. After the snake broke its body, it shot down like a flying sword, trying to burrow into the earth to escape, but in the next moment, its body became immovable. The soft snake had become as hard as a stick. All because Duan Yun, who couldn't grab this severed snake with his hands, still had his feet. He just used a toe sword. The shoe surface broke with a hole, exposing 2 toes. Now those 2 toes clamped the severed snake body, performing the heart-to-heart clasp. Thus the snake's chi and blood were nearly clamped, hardening. After 2 breaths, Duan Yun relaxed his toes, reached out his hand, and once more clamped the snake, trying to escape with its severed body. All this happened in the blink of an eye, and in Little Yin's eyes, Duan Yun's fluid movements could be described with one word. Elegant. Damn. Too elegant. Now this crowned snake could no longer escape. Even as a snake after being clamped, its face showed an expression of shock. Yes, the snake seemed to have an expression. Duan Yun applied force to his hand, and a whistle sounded again. At this moment, the snake's mouth opened, revealing inside, at the lower jaw position, a delicate iron whistle. Someone had embedded an iron whistle inside the snake's mouth. This was why the snake could whistle. This was artificial. Thinking of how the snake relied on whistling to lead other snakes, killing passers-by one by one for a lair, Duan Yun's eyes filled with disgust. His fingertip emitted sword chi, ready to send the snake on its way. But then, the whistle in the snake's mouth vibrated. Unexpectedly, it produced a sound. Sister. Sister. I love you, sister. I want to be with you forever. The voice sounded like a young woman's, quite pleasant. The snake could even imitate human speech through the whistle. But it kept repeating these words and phrases, as if mimicking someone. Who was it mimicking? The green and white snake demon. Duan Yun already had the answer in his mind. He took a step forward. There was the place the snake had originally tried to flee to. As he lifted his foot and stepped down, with a rumble, the ground collapsed, and his whole body fell downward. He had already discovered that beneath here, it was hollow. The snake was trying to run below because it was their true lair, wasn't it? Snake demon lair. Duan Yun's foot crashed down, shattering the ground. Falling down with him, besides the bodies of snakes and people, was Little Yin. Little Yin didn't want to come down, but the range of the shock Duan Yun caused this time was too large, and the space below was too empty, forcing her to fall. The key was that the space underground was not shallow, not reaching the bottom for a moment, which instinctively provoked fear. Just as Duan Yun planned to slow down by stepping his left foot onto his right foot, with a tap, both his feet had already landed on the ground. Immediately following, Little Yin landed. After Duan Yun's several rounds of sword chi vibrations above, the ground below was full of shattered bodies. Human bodies, snake bodies, the bloody smell was already strong. But at this moment, in the pitch-black cave, there was an additional strange odor. Duan Yun snapped his fingers. A bit of heroic fire blossomed at his fingertips, lighting up the surroundings like a lighter. As the space wasn't small, Duan Yun's fingers moved slightly, and the lighter-like flame suddenly grew into the size of a torch, illuminating the surroundings. Then, Little Yin and Duan Yun looked around, their scalps tingling. It wasn't the bodies on the ground causing their scalps to tingle, but the cave entrances all around. The cave walls were dotted with entrances, dense like a beehive, triggering trypophobia at a glance. These were all snake holes. Duan Yun tried drilling into one, finding that the snake hole consisted of large holes with smaller holes nested within, and those smaller holes branched off like a maze. If the saying that a cunning rabbit has 3 burrows already suggests that a rabbit is sly, leaving itself more than one escape route, then the snake demon here has taken it to the next level, embedding a labyrinth array within its escape routes. Duan Yun couldn't help but say to Little Een, "Can you? Even at my limit, I can't figure it out." Little Een had learned to answer quickly. She was speaking the truth. The smell within these holes was very uniform, suggesting that the snake demon frequently roamed inside. Even snakes shouldn't make so many holes. Indeed, these snake holes were so dense that Duan Yun analyzed. Could it be that the legendary cultivation technique of the snake demon is drilling holes? Actually, Duan Yun guessed part of it correctly. Part of the green and white snake demon's cultivation involved drilling holes, similar to how his cultivation of the jade sword true understanding required absorbing moonlight. The snake demon was observing the show on the cliff moments ago, indicating it hadn't escaped long, which genuinely irritated Duan Yun for being a moment too late, causing him to glance at Little Een. Little Een immediately brought her legs together, hugged her chest with her hands, and asked nervously, "Why are you looking at me?" The next moment, with his true chi swirling, Duan Yun vented into one of the snake holes. "Nana Nana! Love never ends." This was already an underground space, and with the snake's holes of varying sizes, it easily produced echoes, and Duan Yun's voice carried an inherent magical quality. In an instant, the magical sound of "love never ends" filled the whole space, causing a terrifying reverberation. Because of the connection between the snake holes and the mountain, even the entire mountain trembled. The sound was truly terrifying, so much so that even Duan Yun himself covered his ears, channeling force to withstand it. The feeling of wanting to fall in love with a group of women instantly spread. Yet, being the originator of this magical sound, Duan Yun's extraordinary wisdom quickly steadied his mind. After half a tea's worth of time, the magical sound was still echoing but had lessened considerably. Turning his head, Duan Yun was startled. He saw Little Een kneeling on the ground, clothes half removed, embracing his leg, and saying, "Old demon Duan, please love me to death. Love me, and I'll be willing to die for it. Quick, I'd die for love. Love your mother, even as a steed you want to date. Dream on. My mother was killed by you. Please love me. I beg you. Hit me. Hit harder. The more you hit, the more I enjoy it. Just kiss me. Just one kiss, nothing more. I want pure love." For a moment, Little Yin's eyes were filled with the clear admiration of a female university student. On the other side, having already fled a considerable distance through the complex snake holes, the green and white snake demons thought they were safe. Over the years, their large holes with smaller holes nested within made it difficult even for an immortal to find. The man was indeed terrifying, yet they believed he couldn't locate them. It could be said that even if the two sisters wanted to hide, they could securely do so in this lair from the world's most skilled trackers. However, at this moment, a sound surged from afar like a wave. Initially, the sisters didn't pay much attention, but in the next moment, the sound of "Nana Nana, love never ends," filled the entire cavern. The green and white snake demon sisters instantly covered their ears, their alluring bodies writhing inside. "Magical sound," the elder sister White Snake exclaimed in pain. But by the time she realized it, it was already too late. She only resisted for a dozen breaths before the magical sound entered her sea of consciousness. The key was that their snake holes amplified this sound infinitely, causing the magical sound to surge higher and higher like waves, until it pushed them to a climax. Who could have thought that their seemingly impenetrable lair would be breached by a move called Big Horn? After a while, the green and white snake sisters, whose skin was as cold as ice, showed a reddish hue, their eyes blooming like peach blossoms, and their flexible tongues kept flicking. This was a sign of arousal. As the magical sound weakened, Ching and Little White were flushed all over, drenched in sweat, soaking their clothes. They looked into each other's eyes, revealing a shocked emotion. Sister, you didn't. Green Snake asked nervously. Yes. I'm falling in love. I want to love. White Snake replied with a face full of painful struggle. Green Snake anxiously said, but if that's the case, we can only stop here. Monsters practicing cultivation have always been forbidden to fall in love. Falling in love means failing the tribulation of lust, making breakthroughs difficult. In fact, the two sisters are human, both young ladies of the New Hua sect and Bai Hua sect in Qingzhou, friends since childhood. Yet, the New Hua sect and Bai Hua sect have been destroyed by the invasion of the White Sox sect. The two sisters were cast wandering in the world, living a life where each day was uncertain. The martial world's brutality is like this. Life's ups and downs are unpredictable. At this moment, the sisters regretted not learning martial arts well from their parents earlier. Now it's useless. Forget revenge, survival alone is difficult. Yet, when there is a will, there is a way. They unexpectedly acquired a cultivation technique, the green and white Mahayana scripture. Whether there are monsters in this world, the two still don't know. Yet, this cultivation technique would transform them from humans into monsters. As long as they mastered the green and white Mahayana scripture and turned into snake demons, they could roam freely in the martial world, and maybe even have a chance for revenge. They had no choice, so they practiced the cultivation technique. This cultivation technique brought abundant rewards to the sisters, transforming them into creatures increasingly monstrous, increasingly snake-like, favoring cave-dwelling and living with snakes, and their power grew ever more formidable, becoming terrors across the Green Jade Ridge. As they continued to cultivate the green and white Mahayana scripture, the sisters noticed their previous memories gradually fading. This is where the cultivation technique gets wicked. Once you reach a certain point, not only do your habits and figure become more monster-like, but even human memories will diminish. The green and white Mahayana scripture is wicked yet extraordinary. Should cultivation continue, the martial world might truly see two mature snake demons stirring up storms. But at this time, the women discovered their path of advancement might be cut off. They hadn't truly become snake demons yet, they developed feelings of love. Human love. They regained human emotions, making further cultivation difficult. Actually, such a matter could simply be endured to continue cultivating the demon scripture to become demons. But this time, what was frightening is that their love was inevitable. The amplified magic voice effect was truly terrifying, almost cleansing their souls. Green Snake could no longer endure it, holding White Snake's shoulders in pain. Sister, I want to love too. Love to the point of life and death. Sister, bye. I desire you. I desire you. I desire you. White Snake showed a shocked expression, saying, Yumi? Why has your accent changed? Green Snake held her shoulder tighter. Don't you like little Ching, sister? White Snake shook her disheveled green hair. Little Ching, you are a woman, and I am a woman. I'm a normal woman. Green Snake looked at her incredulously. You actually like stinky men. Yes, I like men. I like men. I want love. At this moment, the sound of na 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 na, love never ends, continued to echo in White Snake's mind, making her unable to resist love. No, I must go find a man to love. You mustn't. If you like men, I'll kill all the men you like, so you can only love me. Because I desire you. I desire you. I desire you. Green Snake retorted. You can't. I insist. White Snake broke free from Green Snake's grasp, with a sad yet loving face. Little Ching, I'm sorry, I'm leaving. You can't leave. Don't stop me. Sister, you can't like men. But I can't resist. Then who do you like? I don't know. So I need to find him. Find my perfect husband. Saying this, she already started towards the exit of the cave. Green Snake watched her back, noticing her walking posture still enchanting, swaying like a water snake. But the monstrous aura was increasingly weaker. Sister is going to become human to love. Sister, are you really going to leave me? Green Snake murmured. White Snake paused, and the cave became quiet again. Little Ching, sorry, I really... MMPH. In that instant, green snake had already entwined her body. Sister, if you want to leave, don't blame me for forcibly keeping you here. Are you rebelling? Ah! Green snake let out a strange cry as white snake tugged at her hair. The two quickly tangled together in a fight. Rather than let you love stinky men, I'd rather eat you. Sister, eating you. We can be together forever. Influenced by love never ends. She simply didn't want to let White Snake go. Indeed, before cultivating the demon scripture, she already liked White Snake. These years of daily closeness only intensified this emotion. Originally, they could use cultivating the demon scripture to suppress human desires, but the terrifying magic voice shattered the emotional lock formed by the cultivation. For a moment, one wanted to love her sister, while the other wanted to love her destined one. Because the love was too intense, neither held back when they attacked. Entwining. Extreme entwining. For a moment, it seemed like there were truly two huge snakes entwined in the cave. With a boom, the rock wall shattered, and they fought to the outside of the snake cave. Outside was the cliff. At this moment, the fiercely battling green and white snakes finally realized, screaming as they fell off the cliff. Morning dawn. Sunlight streams through the bamboo forest, wispy and silvery. Duan Yun rode on Little Een down the road. Little Een, you wouldn't want your love for the enemy to be known by your brothers and sisters, would you? Whenever Little Een slowed down a bit, Duan Yun couldn't help but remind her. Little Een looked mortified. Can you not talk about it anymore? When you begged me on your knees last night, you didn't say that. Duan Yun remarked. That was your magic voice, Little Een argued. She, Little Een, suffering humiliation, willingly as a steed, aiming to kill old demon Duan for her mother's revenge. She could never fall for the enemy. That would be too foolish and shameful. If her sisters knew, she truly would want to die. Just kiss me once. Just kiss. Nothing else. I want pure love. Please. Duan Yun repeated her words in her tone. You don't say, accompanied with her twin ponytails look. It truly had a schoolgirl feeling. Upon hearing this line, Little Yin's face turned red. This is the most shameful sentence. Even being ravaged and tortured by old demon is not as shameful as this sentence. She actually said such words to her mother's killer. Though old demon's magic voice can affect a person's mind, it isn't control but magnifying one's inner love and desire. If she had no thought of the old demon at all, no matter how amplifying the magic voice, it would be useless. That really was the annoying part. Can't tell old demon that even when she fell asleep last night, the pure dream she had involved him? Just then, Little Een pointed ahead. Look! Someone. Down the slope ahead, there were two women. They were with disheveled hair, lying on the ground, covered with wounds, looking like they had fallen by accident. To divert the awkward topic, Little Een quickly assumed a Samaritan role, rushing towards them. Nearing them, Duan Yun found that the two women were injured. Injured quite severely. Blood flowed through the grass, very glaring. Being a doctor with the medical practitioner's compassionate heart, he quickly dismounted from Little Een. Duan Yun promptly took their pulses, finding their injuries severe, seemingly with one foot already across into Yama Palace. Yet, encountering him, there was still hope. Duan Yun laid the two women flat. Electrical sparks flickered from his fingertips as he pressed into their foreheads. Regardless of viewing the scene 100 times, Little Een always felt a shuddering fear. Electric sparks entered their foreheads. Their hair floated like water plants in water. The chests followed. At this point, the electrical sparks intensified, piercing deeply like a rod. With each pierce, the women's entire chests seemed to rise up. After over a dozen times, the woman on the left couldn't help but mutter in pain, slowly opening her eyes. Duan Yun let go, continuing to rescue the woman on the right. Clearly, this younger-looking woman was more severely injured, requiring more effort to revive her. White Snake lay there, blurred vision filled with Duan Yun's handsome profile. She suddenly felt struck by lightning, a very numb, pleasurable feeling. desiring love with the perfect husband? The white snake had already awakened, but the green snake was still being treated. Watching Duan-yun as he treated her sister, the phrase, "na na na na, love never ends," kept echoing in the white snake's mind, and she felt as if spring had arrived. It really had. In this moment, under these circumstances, she had fallen in love with this life-saving benefactor. Look, even the posture of saving someone was so pleasing, and his medical skills were so impressive. Facing such a person, even if he unreasonably demanded she marry him, she would agree. In the next instant, the white snake shuddered, having seen the flickers of electricity and the bone-setting punch. She recognized his identity. Wasn't this the boxer who last night shattered the red-haired zombie with a single punch? How did he also become a doctor? Thinking about that Lu Mountain ascending dragon dominance punch and how it blasted the vicious red-haired zombie to pieces, could she even survive being treated by someone like him? For a moment, the white snake felt as if she were in a state of between ice and fire. Cold from the terrifying person before her, warm from his handsome and pleasing appearance. Handsome like the ideal husband she had imagined, making her want to fall in love. If she truly loved him, would it not be a sheep falling in love with a wolf, loving recklessly? Wow! At this moment her sister, the green snake, spat out a mouthful of fresh blood and woke up. When she awoke, the first person she looked at was not her life-saving benefactor, Duan-yun, but her sister, the white snake. Sister! Don't move, either of you. Follow my breathing control. At that moment, Duan-yun reached out both hands, pressing them onto the backs of both women, and began breathing control. In the martial world, those who are somewhat cautious generally avoid engaging in breathing exercises with others, as it could easily be a trap. If something goes wrong during breathing control, it could lead to disrupted breaths, injury, or even sudden death. But this person seemed to have a magical charm. When he suggested it, the two women simply complied. As they followed Duan-yun in breathing control, their originally severe internal injuries healed quite a bit as a result. Duan-yun withdrew his hands and said, "That's enough." At that moment, the green snake also recognized Duan-yun's identity, breaking out in a cold sweat, then hurriedly closing her pores to recall her sweat, avoiding alarming him. She didn't want to end up like the red-haired zombie, being punched into the sky. "Thank you, benefactor." The two women knelt down, speaking in unison. Duan-yun stood up, puzzled, and said, "What's with you two? We sisters are disciples of the Lihua sect in Yu State. Originally, we were delivering messages and gaining experience. While passing through this mountain, we sisters argued over how to choose our ideal husband. Who would have thought we'd both accidentally fall off a cliff, sustaining serious injuries? If it weren't for you saving us, we wouldn't have survived," the white snake said sincerely. Regardless of love or not, they had to stay alive first. At such a time, even the green snake dared not be reckless. "Is that so?" Duan-yun scrutinized the two of them. For a moment, both women felt as if he had seen through them. However, their expressions remained calm because, while recounting this story, their memories had automatically formed in their minds. The green and white Mahayana method would cause them to forget memories related to people, but once they stopped, their power wouldn't advance, and they gained the ability to compile memories. In other words, they might be the best liars, the kind who could even deceive themselves. "We dare not hide from our benefactor. Benefactor, esteemed as the divine doctor, please return with us sisters to the Lihua sect so we can properly repay you." Duan-yun waved his hand and said, "No need for that. I have matters to attend to, so I'm leaving now." Afterward, Duan-yun and Little In left. Saving people was a convenient thing. Why would he need repayment? Little In had not smelled anything unusual earlier, owing to the fact that after the snake demon developed feelings, it had become human and lost its snake scent. Watching Duan-yun's dashing departure, not taking advantage of them at all, the white snake was left infatuated for a moment. She had decided that no matter how strong the other's fists were, this was the man she wanted to love. "Sister, you're not in love with him, are you?" the green snake asked, seeing her expression. How could I? I just left the mountain. Stop pretending. It's fate. What can I do when fate arrives? Responded the white snake. Fate? Bah, you're just craving his looks. He saved me, so he's my destined one. I can't help it if he's handsome, the white snake said helplessly. So, you're saying even if he looked as ugly as a pig, as long as he saved you, you'd still love him? The green snake pressed. Of course. His appearance is not something I can decide. By Liz Hen, do you truly refuse to love me? Upon hearing this, the green snake's eyes turned as cold as a snake's. The white snake remained silent. Fine. 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 You like this doctor, don't you? You like him. I'll destroy him personally, the green snake proclaimed, filled with resentment born from love. You wouldn't dare. Why wouldn't I dare? Even if you fell in love with Buddha, I'd flood Lingshan. With that, the green snake twisted her body, spewing water. Ching, why do you want to stop me from loving? You know the consequences of not loving. Sister, you're just lusting for the body. You don't even understand love. Nonsense. In an instant, they were wrestling with each other again. Oh! Ow! Both of them, their injuries not yet healed, were unsteady on their feet. After a few moves, they slipped and rolled off the cliff again. This time, they fell so hard that their heads nearly split open. Hidden Forest City, Fonglin Inn. Not a single maple tree in sight. 2 crooked willow trees grew on either side of the inn, resembling 2 old, weather-beaten women, still laboriously welcoming guests in their advanced years. Duan Yun and Little Een came here and decided to stay for the night. Because this is Qingzhou's final city, beyond it lies the territory of Yu State. Young hero Duan wanted to wait here for someone to mess with him. The people of Qingzhou kept boasting about how mighty the White Sock Divine Sect was, and how they would deal with those who opposed them. But after Gua Heavenly King died, this trend only intensified. Young hero Duan loved nothing more than shattering others' pride. This time, if the White Sox sect dared to come, he would show the ignorant fools of Qingzhou how a young hero could single-handedly defeat the demon sect. So he waited here. The 2 entered the inn and started eating and drinking. Especially Little Een, who appeared to be a beautiful young girl, ate quite a lot. No choice, being a workhorse consumed too much energy. During this time, she unknowingly felt herself getting much stronger. Indeed, her abdomen was already showing signs of a six-pack. It was all thanks to old demon Duan's training. If she, Little Een, could keep climbing higher and getting stronger, once her sisters united, they could surely break free and soar, turning the tables on old demon Duan. For a moment, with her mouth stuffed with meat buns, Little Yin's gaze was determined. But just as she was feeling resolute, a song suddenly echoed through the inn. Will you come tonight? Is your love still there? If your heart has already left, I'd rather have no future. It was a peculiar melody, like a spring breeze brushing over cold land, filled with infinite tenderness yet tinged with sadness. Initially resolute and ambitious to take down old demon Duan, Little Een suddenly softened. She thought perhaps it wasn't worth doing such things. It seemed fine to just be a workhorse and enjoy the tranquility of life. Duan Yun listened to the song and found the melody quite nice. The lyrics were straightforward, akin to a pop song, lacking any ancient charm, but the tune could transport people into a certain mood. A kind of gentle mood where one no longer desired conflict and only wished to retire to the countryside with their beloved. Originally, this inn gathered quite a few people from the martial world, most being bloodthirsty spectators here to see the commotion. They thought the same. If the White Sock Divine Sect wanted to regain face, this inn in Qingzhou's final city would be their last stop. If they let old demon Duan swagger out of Qingzhou, out of their territory, then the White Sock Divine Sect would have admitted defeat this time. Moreover, many highly honorable martial artists from Qingzhou also came here. They even wanted to take on old demon Duan, not just for the dignity of Qingzhou's martial world, but also because of the secrets old demon Duan possessed. With the bloodthirsty storyteller's persistent efforts, News that old demon Duan held the martial god treasure had long spread. They even continuously refined the story. For instance, they wondered how old demon Duan could cause such upheaval just 2.5 years after debuting. It was due to old demon Duan having long obtained the martial god's legacy, or maybe he went near Golden Mountain in Qinghe City, not just to cause chaos in the martial world, but to gain even greater opportunity. This made more sense. Similarly, it was even more enticing. In the martial world, everyone scolded old demon Duan, yet who didn't want to be him? Just those terrifying thunderbolt methods would make them willing to love hundreds of martial world beauties. Thus, this Fenglin Inn was bustling with people eager to see the commotion and those coveting the secrets. Even after the place was cleared twice, with the unworthy already being weeded out by fellow martial world members, the inn remained overcrowded. But this inn always had an empty room. The sky room was empty, because this room could only be reserved for old demon Duan, the main character of this affair. If old demon Duan didn't come here, then the multiple bloody struggles for a good position and room would be meaningless. Originally, those who had worked hard to secure a good spot were excited and ambitious, with bloodthirsty eyes for the spectacle and a calculated mind for secrets, only to lose their drive at the song's tune. They became peaceful, even faintly recalling their unrequited first love. Such regret, both beautiful and heart-wrenching. Then the song abruptly stopped. The indolent mood of the inn also came to an abrupt halt. Not only came to a halt, but the atmosphere conversely grew more enthusiastic. If the previously lost was considered a beautiful piece in the song, now that the song had stopped, the sense of loss became particularly intense. What unrequited, what beautiful regrets. It was all because they were too weak to attain it. If they had the strength of old demon Duan back then, they wouldn't just take their first love by force, but could have dominated their entire family. Suddenly, people's ambitions to pursue power grew stronger. When Duan Yun and Little Yin first entered the inn, many people had already recognized them. After all, even though many in Qingzhou followed the trend of riding mounts, none had the aura of this creator. Thus, the whole inn was in an exceptionally tense state. Duan Yun and Little Yin were eating, and no one dared disturb them. Normally, even Little Yin, as his steed, wouldn't be disturbed. Yet, at this moment, someone did move. It was a young couple. A beautiful young couple, with phoenix eyes, clearly from a prominent family, exuding grace. The young husband bowed respectfully when he saw Duan Yun and Little Yin. "Greetings, young hero. I am Yun Tsongyun of the Yunjian sect, and this is my wife, Wan Tsongyen." Hearing those names, many in the inn had already changed expressions. Yunjian sect wasn't very large or strong, but it was well known in the martial world, because Yunjian sect had once produced a sword immortal. 200 years ago, sword immortal Yun Tianhai emerged and dominated 2 states, and although his successors weren't as formidable, his illustrious reputation allowed the sect to establish a considerable foundation. The current emperor's favorite consort was actually Yun Li's daughter, the sect leader, while Yun Tsongyun was Yun Li's son, and therefore consort Xiang's brother, making his imperial connections undisputable. Yun Tsongyun and his wife Wan Tsongyen, known for their talent and looks, were famous in the martial world as an immortal couple. No one expected this couple to be the first to step forward. Truly a sect with a history of producing a sword immortal, worthy of being Qingzhou martial world's pride. With such precious status and such youthful courage to stand up for Qingzhou martial world. Might couldn't bend them. They really were the backbone of Qingzhou martial world. Duan Yu knew that most in this probably bore ill intentions. But since this couple showed such courtesy, he replied politely, "How can I assist you, brother Yun and lady?" Yun Tsongyun responded, "My wife and I have a deep, unwavering affection, and have earned a modest name in the martial world. May I ask what the young hero thinks of my wife?" Duan Yun raised a brow, thinking, "Goodness, have they been courteous so long just to show off their love in front of me?" Yet, as a young hero, despite disdaining this behavior, he remained polite. "Your wife is extraordinarily beautiful with such a noble character, like a lotus emerging from water. Brother Yun is truly fortunate, making others envious." At this, Yoon Song-yoon's eyes brightened, and with a thud, he knelt to the ground, saying, "Young hero Duan, I am willing to offer my wife to you, in exchange for a glimpse of your martial records." Upon these words, his wife Won Song-yen blushingly lowered her head, apparently having accepted the situation. Duan Yoon blinked. Little Een blinked. The people in the inn blinked, immediately followed by a collective gasp that heated up the interior of the inn. As a result, the expressions on the faces of the Qingzhou martial world experts, who were just watching the spectacle, turned as if they had eaten dirt. In a moment, under the weight of this humiliation, the backbone of Qingzhou's martial world crumbled with a crash. Fonglin Inn, room number 3 of the Heaven class, King Li held a glass of fine wine, gazing deeply into the distance. Every time he initiated the back and forth grand technique, a faint melancholy and deep affection enveloped him. To move others, one must first move oneself. If King Lu, who cultivated the Forget Love Hammer, was the most emotionless among the 4 heavenly kings, then he was the other extreme, the most affectionate one. There was always a saying within the White Sock Divine sect, "I love Li Ming. Li Ming loves me." This is not mere talk, for those who love King Li always receive his heartfelt response. His singing has a magical power that makes people become affectionate. And the emptiness after deep affection further drives people into a frenzy akin to being injected with adrenaline. This is the ingenious part of the back and forth grand technique, which can play with a person's mood, making them calm and melancholic, and then swiftly ignite their inner desires after this calm melancholy. However, at this moment, King Li, holding the night light cup filled with fine wine, was frozen there, because he heard Yoon Song-yoon's words. "I stir you to advance and attack old demon Duan, yet you go off to deliver a wife to old demon Duan? Your face? Your dignity? Your morals?" Facing the respectful kneeling of the Yoonjian sect's senior disciple couple and their eager gazes, Duan Yoon was momentarily at a loss about what to do next. If it were a matter of stealing or robbing secret techniques, that would be easily resolved. Beat them to death or cripple them or directly tame them as mounts and kill them after riding, they are all feasible. But they were so polite, even willing to give you the most beloved wife, leaving Duan Yoon genuinely unsure how to proceed. The saying, "Do not strike someone who's smiling," embodies this reasoning. Among the people of the martial world, hunger for divine skills is a norm, and Duan Yoon is not a stingy person. Otherwise, he wouldn't have ventured deeply into various sects in Qinghe City to personally preach, allowing the Iron Blood sect and others to reach new heights. However, even if young hero spreads teachings, it's not done casually. At least one's character and virtue must pass, otherwise they end up like Hua Won and Hua Wu, rather than become heroic knights guided to success by heroes. Duan Yoon looked at Yoon Song-yoon and said, "Do you really want to learn?" "Of course I do," Yoon Song-yoon replied excitedly. At this moment, not only Yoon Song-yoon but everyone else was getting immensely stirred. Everyone curses old demon Duan, yet everyone desires to possess old demon Duan's methods. If they owned old demon Duan's methods and without his madness, focusing only on cunning and killing, life would be beautiful. Is that so? Then let's see if you're qualified. As Duan Yoon spoke, he stretched out his hand and suddenly pressed down on the other's head. As the Biming divine skill activated, a gust blew through the inn, blurring Yoon Song-yoon's visage. "Retreat!" someone shouted, and those seated throughout the inn suddenly huddled toward the corners, hoping to shield themselves by placing others in front. Indeed, when Old Demon's demon technique was unleashed, the wind and clouds changed suddenly. In an instant, streams of true chi and memory fragments from Yoon Song-yoon flooded into Duan Yun's mind. "Revive the glory of the Yoonjian sect. It's our duty. Father and elders are old, only wanting to enjoy life through my sister's status as an imperial concubine, with no intention of striving for improvement. Yoonjian sect cannot remain stagnant. It must learn higher martial arts to ensure survival and move forward in the martial world. Madam, I have an unsuitable request. I want to offer you to young hero Duan in exchange for a chance to soar. A chance to change myself, change the Jade Sword sect. Wan Wan, why are you excited too?" Duan Yun recoiled as if shocked by electricity, stopping the beaming divine skill. Right now, Yoon Song-yoon, apart from having some odd ideas like giving his wife as a dog-like scheme, still had the potential to be a good seedling. His memory showed no evil deeds. Since childhood, he only thought about practicing martial arts, eventually realizing the limits of his family's martial arts, thus pondering day and night on ways to integrate more high-level martial arts. He devised the idea of offering his wife because he genuinely loved her and desperately wanted to advance. He believed that only by offering his beloved woman could he obtain the secret techniques to change himself and the sex situation. Duan Yun looked at Yoon Song-yoon, whose expression was somewhat dazed while taking deep breaths, and said, "I can teach you." "Really?" Yoon Song-yoon immediately reacted, ecstatically. "You want to learn new martial arts to change the fate of the Yunjian sect?" Duan Yun continued. "Yes. I want to change the Yunjian sect's increasingly rotten and deplorable fate." Duan Yun said seriously, "Then I have a cultivation technique I can pass on to you. Come to my room after nightfall." Yoon Song-yoon joyfully exclaimed, "Thank you, hero." Just as the words fell, someone shouted from behind, "Young hero Duan, my wife is also extraordinary. My wife is indeed a famous treasure in Qingzhou." Upon hearing this, Mrs. Yoon, Wan Songyan hurried towards Duan Yun, eager to attend to his needs. Duan Yun refused and said, "A hero doesn't seize what others desire. Madam, please return." With that, he took little Een to the room. At that instant, Yoon Song-yoon and his wife Wan Songyan both wore expressions of disappointment. "Hero, take my wife." These were his true feelings, yet he dared not utter them. Everyone knew old demon Duan was petty and disliked others defying him. At this moment, someone reacted and said, "Young hero, if you dislike wives, my daughter is also among Qingzhou's top 10 famous treasures. I treasure your mother. Can your daughter compare to mine? My wife and daughter both have the innate glazed glass famous ice body, certified by the 3 major sects." At this moment, Duan Yun's voice floated by again. "Those who've harmed no innocents and consider themselves good people can come." As soon as these words were spoken, a group of people were excited to jump up, but they quickly calmed down again. Most here can't refrain from harming the innocent. 9 out of 10 fail this point. In this era, reaching a certain level in martial arts without killing or violating some civilians, isn't that just for nothing? Yet many still consider themselves good people. Though I kill and violate, I am a good person. This is the thought in many people's hearts. Moments later, for people gritted their teeth and followed Yoon Song-yoon upstairs. With a sputter, King Lee sprayed a crimson splash, reddening his lapel, indistinguishable whether it was wine or blood. He sat there, his cheeks twitching, a look of pain on his face. The divine sect has ruled Qingzhou for many years. How did they not discover the likes of these characters here? Your pride, your backbone, where is it? I activated the back and forth technique. You all didn't go to fiercely battle old demon Duan, to expose some of his skills, but chose to surrender your wives and daughters. At this moment, the sentimental King Li just felt that the martial world of Qingzhou was really rotten. But soon he clenched the night light cup in his hand. Old demon Duan transferring power? This might be their perfect opportunity to act. The wall showed a faint tremor. It was King Lu's heartless hammer striking the wall with ease. Evidently, he shared the same thought with himself. Duan Yun arrived at Fenglin Inn as dusk approached, so he and little Een were in the room for only a short while before it was almost dark. One must say, this top-grade room is indeed expensive for a reason. At least the window view is nice. Outside the window, a canal runs along. The water in the canal is very clear, with willow trees planted nearby, reflecting the inn's lights. It sparkles with the flavor of a Jiangnan water town. But this scene quickly became unpleasant, due to an old lady scrubbing a chamber pot by the canal. For a moment, Duan Yun felt the canal water was not so clean anymore. Not long after it grew dark, with Yoon Song-yoon leading, 5 people nervously knocked on Duan Yun's door. Thus, the gaze of most people in the inn once again focused on this top-grade room. From here, Only the shadows of old Demon Duan and those 5 shameless individuals can be seen through the window paper. Suddenly, chaos broke out from a calm ground. Everyone was shocked, because old Demon Duan exerted his power again. It was the same as before, a technique like the demonic touch on the head, but this time striking both left and right. People hadn't even reacted, only heard a bang. One person inside flew out like a cannonball, landing in the front yard. That person, indeed, was one of the 5. He had been struck with a palm, his internal organs shattered. He lay there painfully saying, "I only violated and killed 3 pairs of orphaned and widowed. Does this not count as a good person?" After those words, he drew his last breath. Upon hearing this, several people had expressions like they'd escaped a disaster. They had considered trying too, but if violating and killing 3 pairs of orphans and widows meant being beaten to death, then surely they'd die even faster if they went up. One can only say old Demon Duan is truly sinister. At this time, shadows flickered on the window paper. A woman's silhouette broke through the window. That woman's figure moved fast as lightning, unbelievably swift. After exiting the window, her sleeves waved like growing wings, gracefully ascending. It's Emoya. Emoya is a discarded disciple of the Emo sect, also a notorious thief. It is said her Qigong has reached the level where true Qi can become wings like a flying bird. Seeing this, it seems indeed true. This woman not only steals things but also people, seizing their nest after killing the original mate. Thus, in the martial world, some call her Emojio, not Emoya. Evidently, this woman feared being read by Duan Yun to expose secrets, so chose to escape. Flying in the air for a moment, Emoya felt secure. Being a discarded disciple of the Emo sect for over 10 years, she had been hunted by countless masters, but once she flew into the sky, no one could challenge her. Old Demon Duan, you lunatic, sooner or later I'll rob you until you lose both body and soul. Almost simultaneously, an ethereal jade sword immortal Dharma image appeared. Behind the sword immortal, arms bloomed like lotus flowers, instantly shooting dozens of jade sword finger sword energy. Emoya alluringly smiled, waved her wings, and gracefully maneuvered her body. Old Demon Duan's sword finger was fast and numerous, but still lacked a bit of firepower to deal with her. In the next instant, a shout rang out. Due to, at this moment, the emitted jade sword finger sword energy transformed into arcs, taking a turn, making their trajectory weird and unpredictable. Emoya continued to gracefully maneuver her body, in an instant changed 36 positions. Then, was pierced 92 times by sword chi, utterly riddled like a sieve. As she fell from the sky in a spray of blood, only the words "unlucky" remained in her mouth. Onlookers were astounded because just now, so many sword chi fingers attacked. Emoya wouldn't have been this miserably pierced just by staying still. Yet, she moved. Old Demon Duan could foresee all of Emoya's foresights. For a moment, everyone just felt old Demon Duan was terrifying beyond compare. Always calmly observing all this, King Li and King Zhang now showed serious expressions. This demon's foresight ability, truly unparalleled. Actually, Duan Yun doesn't have that much foresight ability, it's just exceptionally lucky. However, now he has almost consumed the 7 points to the original energy he absorbed earlier. And this time, what he is going to transfer to the remaining 3 is 7 points to the original energy. Duan Yun looked at the remaining 3 led by Yun Songyun and said, "You 3 barely qualify regarding character and integrity. Since you all have the determination to change fate, I shall transmit to you 7 points to the original energy. 7 points to the original energy. 7 points to the original energy. 7 points to the original energy." At the mention of this term, the 3 couldn't help but shudder. Simultaneously, over 10 eavesdroppers shuddered as well. Regardless of the actual power of this technique, the mere name sounds domineering. Everyone here in this inn has somewhat of a background. This heaven-grade room is reserved for the protagonist, Old Demon Duan. But the room had long been tampered with. 8 extremely thin metal tubes penetrate the walls and floor, hanging into other rooms. Just sticking close to these tubes allows one to clearly hear the movements in this room. This is the MO6 Earth listening skill. To hear enough information, all the heroes of the martial world have paid high prices for this. At this moment, Duan Yun began to speak. The so-called 7 points to the original energy. 3 points are preordained by destiny, 7 points rely on struggle. If you are willing to learn from me, you can rely on the 7 points of struggle to change your destiny entirely. Upon hearing this, the three and the eavesdroppers shuddered once again, followed by a few quick intakes of breath. If someone else were to say this, they would naturally think it was bragging. But from Old Demon Duan's mouth, it's an entirely different matter. Because Old Demon Duan's achievements are the best interpretation of these words. Alright, follow me in breathing exercises. Circulate the qi to the Yushi acupoint, feel a breath forming, then let it move to the qi si. Later, Duan Yun explained to the three in a way that was both deep and casual. Duan Yun, who is truly a genius of extraordinary wisdom, simplified the previously obscure and incomprehensible 7 points to the original energy, making it easy to understand and suitable for all ages. Will simplifying it cause any changes? Of course not, because it doesn't change him at all. By this time, 7 points to the original energy had reached a critical moment. Even the eavesdroppers felt a mighty energy forming and flowing within them, thick and robust. Damn it! Duan Yun suddenly shouted. Damn it! Damn it! Damn it! Yun Song Yun and the other two echoed his shout, eyes wide open. The eavesdroppers didn't care if they were exposed. They shouted along with it. Because after this shout, they suddenly felt that mighty energy become lively. 7 points. 7 points. Returning essence. Returning essence. Qi. Qi. In an instant, Fenglin Inn was filled with cries of ghosts and wolves, resonating throughout the city. Boom, 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 boom. Over 10 qi columns shot up to the sky like a smoky wolf. As these qi columns rose, the surrounding people's qi columns were forced to explode out. In a moment, the qi columns rose to the sky, the weather changed, and in the eyes of the bloodthirsty audience, there was an illusion of looming thunder tribulations. Is it thundering? Is it going to rain? Should they collect the clothes? Soon after, a soft hum spread around Fenglin Inn. Even the old lady washing out the chamber pot couldn't help but put it on her head, tapping her right foot on the ground, humming along. Only King Li and King Zhang remained mostly unchanged. Because in that moment they had been prepared, noticing the change in qi, they had already circulated their cultivation technique, fixing their qi like nails. Is this old demon Duan manipulating people's qi? Duan Yun observed the many smoke columns taking form, aware that someone was secretly listening and practicing his technique. His face showed displeasure, and his own smoke column intensified. From high above, Duan Yun's smoke column appeared the thickest and most golden, as if it was the absolute core of this group of smoke columns. If there were a hierarchy of smoke columns, Duan Yun's would be the emperor, while other columns look like cattle and horses being eyed by the emperor. Duan Yun waved his hand, and the emperor-like smoke column instantly transformed into 3-headed 6-armed, smashing towards those secretly practicing returning essence qi smoke columns. Boom, boom, boom. Those qi columns collapsed instantly, while those below who caused the returning essence qi column spat blood, suffering a tremendous backlash. This backlash was terrifyingly potent, worse than having one's returning essence qi refined, possibly turning one's returning essence qi into a negative number. After spitting blood, they looked both terrified and confused. Only now did they realize how dangerous practicing Old Demon's demon technique was. Soon, someone quickly discovered that it was nothing more than spitting out dirty blood, revealing a look of relief. Thankfully, this injury is trivial. This backlash force isn't even as potent as my sect's reverse qi counterassault. Mr. Duan. Duan the hero's cultivation technique is still relatively gentle. And just then, a series of crashing booms was heard. 3 out-of-control carriages crashed through the wall consecutively, at high speed. Before this group of practitioners realized, They were hit and sent rolling everywhere with cries and wails. The ground was either covered with blood or with flying teeth. These carriages were from the city's pig transport team, pulling breeding pigs in urgent heat, becoming uncontrollably intense, leading to the carriage's loss of control. Hence, these practitioners, just knocked over by the carriages, relying on their protective body true chi to avoid serious injury, were whacked by pigs in the next instant. The tall, breeding pigs, carrying their musty smell, slammed down ferociously, some foaming at the mouth, some had their droppings knocked out. The breeding pigs remained in a frenzied state after slamming people, rolling around madly with screams everywhere. King Li watched the spectacle in shock. Old Demon Duan manipulated the breeding pigs? In these days, to know his opponent, Old Demon Duan, he studied many documents related to him, one describing how several of Master Gao's beautiful wives at Gao Family Manor were ridden by boars overnight because of Old Demon Duan's madness, using the fertility technique on boars, resulting in this peculiar case. Old Demon Duan was still in the room, rock solid, but his means already reaching such absurd levels, not even sparing pigs. Suddenly, King Li's previously solemn and deep gaze showed a hint of fear. Can he win? The Fenglin Inn was in chaos. Who could have expected that these self-proclaimed elite martial artists from the martial world, hoping to change their fate with Old Demon Duan's demon technique, would be defeated by aroused pigs? It's just that the breeding pigs are naturally heavy and thick-skinned, and when they go into heat, they truly become frenzied. King Li and King Lu watched the chaos unfold, unable to figure out whether Old Demon Duan had used some fertility technique on the breeding pigs, causing this situation. In the next instant, all that could be heard was a loud boom as the roof tiles flew up like paper, revealing their figures. Experts. Duan Yun stood on the rooftop, staring at the two of them, unsure of when he had arrived. Just as he unleashed the 7 points to the original energy, the smoke plumes from these two quickly dissipated, clearly resisting his 7 points to the original energy. Such people were undoubtedly experts. And with experts hiding in this inn, it was highly likely they were from the White Sock Divine Sect. Duan Yun's suspicion was correct. After the roof was blown off, King Li and King Lu knew they couldn't hide it anymore, their eyes growing particularly serious. The two kings outing this time had been without any pomp. They had secretly stayed in the inn, intending for these Qingzhou martial arts weaklings to attack first, display some of Old Demon Duan's skills, so they could then act with a plan. Watching the battle from the room, determining victory or defeat, was befitting their status as kings. Unfortunately, the uselessness of the Qingzhou martial arts weaklings far exceeded their imagination. The anticipated chaotic battle with Old Demon Duan did not materialize. Instead, it was a group bearing wives and daughters, and now even more absurdly being defeated by breeding pigs. King Li and King Lu exchanged glances, striking instantly. Ask heaven and earth. With a shout, King Li's fist brought forth powerful fist power, roaring towards Duan Yun like a cannonball. Duan Yun clenched his fist and charged forward. At the moment the two fist powers collided, Duan Yun let out an exclamation of, "Oh!" It was because King Li's fist power split into two, one crashing towards his head, the other towards his foot. This was the intricacy of Ask Heaven and Earth. Break! Duan Yun's expression tightened, and breaking body sword energy burst forth from his face and instep, shredding the fist power. At this moment, a figure leapt and enveloped him from behind. King Lu. A huge hammer-like Dharma image appeared behind King Lu, flowing with a ghostly blue sheen. 800! 800! 400! 400! With King Lu's furious shout, he transformed Qi into a hammer, ferociously crashing down on Duan Yun. Duan Yun only felt a merciless, hopeless aura rushing towards him, extracting his gentle knife in an instant, and slashing out spring rain blade power. The Forget Love hammer alternated in size, relentlessly like thunder. Duan Yun recognized the pattern. When it was 800, the incoming hammer was large and fierce, and when it was 400, it was much smaller and more agile, with an unpredictable trajectory. There had always been a saying in Qingzhou martial arts that King Lu's one hammer worth 1,000 gold, did not refer to the monetary value of his cold hammer weapon, but rather his hammer technique. It was because his hammer technique was both powerful and mysterious. In the White Sock Divine sect, once his Forget Love hammer was unleashed, it often changed the course of battle, more valuable than gold many a time. Yet King Lu was modest, humbly considering that each hammer was worth a few hundred gold pieces. His internal standard was that big hammers were worth 800, small hammers 400. Few had surpassed 2,000 gold hammers in his hands, and those who did were already considered experts. Now facing old Demon Duan, King Lu's Forget Love hammer seemed to come at him relentlessly. If this Forget Love hammer could really turn into gold, everyone within several miles would surely be smashed silly by the gold. Boom, boom, boom. The blade trembled. An indifferent and numb feeling overwhelmed Duan Yun, and memories of the past 2 days in his mind also shook, becoming quite blurred. This was clearly caused by the hammer technique. The Forget Love hammer. To forget love, one must lose memory. At this time, tiles behind Duan Yun flew up like fallen leaves. As King Li approached from behind, launching a sneak attack, Duan Yun's expression tightened, and he stomped his foot. The tiles beneath shattered, and he fell downward. This was from the second-floor rooftop of the inn, and with this stomp, he broke through the second-floor planks, landing on the first floor. King Li and King Lu thought old Demon Duan was afraid, quickly following. They felt they had gained momentum and needed to maintain this soaring momentum. Their bodies enveloped in true qi, they crashed through the floor like cannonballs, charging towards Duan Yun. After landing, Dharma Shaoqing suddenly appeared behind Duan Yun, holding a knife in his left hand, a fist in his right, his robes billowing. In an instant, sword qi swirled like persistent spring rain, and his fist technique was wild and frantic, with fist power roaring. Thud! The Forget Love hammer and spring rain blade power collided, with shock waves exploding like ripples, shattering the room windows. Broken water flow. Midway, King Li switched from fists to palms, joining them as if holding a cold sword, unleashing a hand knife slash. Whoosh! The air was sliced by this hand knife, forming a white turbulent flow. Duan Yun continued to punch, with fist power roaring. Their struggle quickly entangled each other. This was inside the inn's lower floor room, not as spacious as the rooftop, and with 3 people inside, the danger naturally increased manifold. Broken water flow. Break him. The Forget Love hammer really packs a punch. Many onlookers had recognized King Li and King Lu, their faces ecstatic. Several women were already in tears, their pants soaked with excitement. King Li, we love you. King Lu, unforgettable for a lifetime. These women could be said to be fanatical followers of the 4 heavenly kings of the White Sock Divine sect. Upon seeing the 2 kings take action, they were so excited that they cried both up and down. The White Sock Divine sect had ruled over Qingzhou for many years, and the heavenly kings held an extremely high status among the martial world people of Qingzhou, higher than their ancestors. After all, many of their original sects, including the ancestors of their last 3 generations, were wiped out by the White Sock Divine sect. Martial world people revere the strong. When their ancestors were wiped out, they became even more in awe of the White Sock Divine sect, and many women of Qingzhou became fans of the 4 heavenly kings' looks, always saying that when the 2 kings join forces, they are invincible in the world. Previously, old Demon Duan had made a grand display at Fenglin Inn, and they could only grit their teeth. Now that the 2 heavenly kings were truly teaming up, how could they not be excited? This was a rare duel of masters, even said to be a once-in-a-decade event for the Qingzhou martial world. Major events in the martial world happen frequently, but not everyone gets to witness such a scene. About 10 of the most curious martial world people couldn't help but approach the room, and in an instant, 2 were sliced in half by the overflowing sword qi. Their companions nearby were startled, quickly grabbing the bodies as shields while continuing to watch. Because Duan Yun's spring rain blade energy was too fast, those martial world people who were sliced in half didn't die immediately. Thus, those used as shields could still continue watching. What excitement! With a boom, bricks flew everywhere. A wall had already been destroyed, revealing the figure of Duan Yun fighting two adversaries. Wow! The female fans of the Heavenly Kings squeezed their legs tightly and screamed, King Li! King Li, we love you! King Lu! King Lu! Unforgettable for a lifetime! King Li! But their screams grew softer because at this moment, the deeply affectionate King Li was punched by old demon Duan, sending his front teeth flying out. In pain, King Li also felt troubled. Just now, the two Heavenly Kings teamed up, thinking they had the momentum, thinking they had the upper hand, so they followed into the room to seize the attack. But as they attacked, they found this guy growing stronger and stronger. Old demon Duan's fist power was relatively normal initially, and he could handle it, but midway, the fist power was like a mad dog, biting everywhere, causing him extraordinary pain. Look, his front teeth were knocked out. At this moment, a loud pig squeal suddenly echoed, and a Randy sow suddenly charged over, aiming to ride someone. His target was King Lu. But as a heavenly king of the White Sock Divine sect, King Lu was obviously not comparable to those Qingzhou weaklings. Facing the sow's charging ride, his forget love hammer skill glimmered, and he lashed out with his elbow. The elbow strike was like a hammer strike, landing directly on the sow's side. In the next moment, the sow was like a high-speed spinning tank, crashing towards Duan Yun. Visibly, the once randy sow's expression had become dazed, even emotionless. That was the effect of the forget love hammer. Thud! Duan Yun used the cloud-clearing palm, with layer upon layer of palm force hitting the sow. As a result, the charging sow suddenly froze in mid-air, as if glued to his hand. Will you come tonight or not? Is my love still there or not? Suddenly, King Li began to sing, and as he sang, he continuously clapped his palms, sending waves of force rolling. If, when he first arrived at the inn, his singing was full of tenderness reminiscent of a first love, now his speed was exceedingly fast, faster than rap, as if combining two words into one with his rapping technique. Along with it, the melancholy atmosphere doubled. With a boom, his palms landed on the sow. At this moment, the previously expressionless, nearly emotionless sow had tears in its eyes, as if reminded of the sadness of its first love. The palm force transmitted through the sow, and Duan Yun also felt a wave of melancholy surging in his heart, as if love had dissipated, leaving him devoid of fighting spirit. Yet he quickly circulated true qi, punching out. This punch not only carried terrifying true qi but also Duan Yun's unique supreme heroic spirit. Suddenly, the once melancholic sow, as if longing for first love, opened its eyes wide, arching its body, appearing full of righteousness, as if it wanted to jump out and become a hero. King Li let out a muffled groan, stepping back 2 steps, while at this moment, King Lu's forget love hammer arrived. Thud! The sow, originally filled with righteousness, suddenly became numb again, as if forgetting everything. In an instant, both sides exchanged around 10 moves centered around the sow. Suddenly, the sow shouted, "Don't want to be a hero." This indicated that in this contest, Duan Yun's supreme heroic spirit had already dominated. Sure enough, both King Li and King Lu simultaneously let out a muffled groan, hands trembling, retreating in succession. Yet at this time, Duan Yun still had energy to attack. With a lift of his hand, the sow shouting "Don't want to be a hero" flipped over, and its urine shot out like an arrow, sweeping across King Li and King Lu. King Li and King Lu, as if struck by a cold weapon, spat blood and collapsed to the ground, terrifying the women to pale faces, unable to shout any slogans anymore. Old Demon Duan was like this, always enjoying shattering others' admiration and pride. As King Li and King Lu fell, they glanced at each other, without any hesitation, joined hands, and leapt into the air. In the instant of taking off, their feet turned into a flurry of shadows. That was them kicking each other's feet rapidly. Under their maneuver, left foot kicking left foot, right foot kicking right foot, the two Heavenly Kings' feet seemed to have acquired a pair of wind and fire wheels, rapidly flying higher. Upon seeing this, a knowledgeable person exclaimed, The divine sect's lateral cloud step. They're about to soar into the sky. At this moment, King Li and King Lu were flying higher than eagles, and in the eyes of the crowd, even old demon Duan couldn't catch up if he had wings. Trying to run? Just then, Duan Yun leaped up, stepping with his left foot on his right foot, chasing after them. Shit! This is unbelievable. This isn't normal. This guy's got something suspicious. The two female fans of the Heavenly Kings were stomping their feet anxiously. Originally, the divine sect's lateral cloud step was absurd enough. The two of them, working together as platforms for each other, could soar into the sky, but now Duan Yun's performance of stepping with his left foot on his right foot was even more outrageous. Who could possibly use their left and right foot as mutual platforms? King Li and King Lu, kicking to fly in the air, thought they had flown high enough to catch a breath and find a place to land. The divine sect's lateral cloud step was their confidence to come and confront old demon Duan. Yes, it was their confidence to retreat safely. Just then, King Li suddenly let out a strange cry, shouting, "Below! Kick quickly!" King Lu looked down. Even his forget love hammer was unsteady from fear, because they saw Duan Yun, stepping with his left foot on his right foot, chasing rapidly, even leaving a faint white turbulence in the air due to his speed. "Go! Plan B!" King Lu decisively shouted. As soon as he finished speaking, the two heavenly kings turned upside down, heads down, and continued to kick wildly with their feet. In an instant, they went from soaring high to plummeting rapidly. Duan Yun saw them descending and hurried to catch up. All this time, his left foot on right foot was for rapid ascent, and accelerating to descend was the first time. He paused for a moment. However, with his extraordinary wisdom spinning, his body quickly turned upside down, left foot on right foot, accelerating to fall. With a boom, King Lu and King Li landed, creating a deep pit. It was a courtyard in Hidden Forest City, where four particularly robust White Sox sect disciples, bare-chested with white socks on their feet, awaited them. Next to them was a black-painted cannon. The two heavenly kings ignored the internal injuries from the fall and immediately crawled into armor, shouting, "Quickly!" The White Sox sect disciples, without a word, stuffed the two into the cannon. King Lu and King Li watched Duan Yun descending, sweating on their foreheads, shouting, "Hurry! Fire!" With a boom, as Duan Yun landed, the fire thunder ignited, and King Lu and King Li, inside the cannon, were shot out, their once clean faces now black as they flew like meteors. Damn it! This time, it was Duan Yun's turn to be stunned. He hadn't expected the White Sock Divine Sect to have such a method of shooting themselves out for escape. Their speed was extreme, and even stepping with his left foot on his right foot couldn't keep up. This was the Plan B escape for the two heavenly kings. It could only be said that they were prepared for victory in battle, yet ready to flee if victory wasn't guaranteed. In the sky, now nearly blackened by the blast, King Lu spat out a smoke ring, painfully saying, "This time old demon has set me back at least 20 years of foundation. Only when the sect hierarch and hidden king emerge can we fight him again." People didn't actually know, the White Sock Divine Sect's 4 heavenly kings actually had 5 members. With Gua Heavenly King gone, the White Sock Divine Sect still had 4 heavenly kings. A bloodthirsty audience chased the flying men throughout the city. Seeing King Lu and King Li flying skyward, turned black by the explosion, the crowd of women screamed, King Li, we love you forever. King Lu, the king's return. King Li. Their screams abruptly stopped, because they saw Duan Yun on the wall. At this moment, Duan Yun had already landed in front of them, looking menacing. One of them reacted quickly, rapidly shouting, Old Demon Duan, we love you." Yes, she found even Old Demon Duan surprisingly handsome. But as soon as the voice started, a sword chi pierced through her forehead. The remaining women came to their senses, instantly looking infatuated. "Young hero Duan, we love you. Young hero Duan, unmatched in the world. The remaining White Sox members nearby gritted their teeth upon hearing this. These wretched women, their hearts change too fast. Don't they know what loyalty is? The heavenly kings are still flying in the sky. Duan Juxia, we love you. Duan Juxia, forever invincible. Listening to the shouts of these old gang members, Duan Yun flew up with 2 kicks and knocked them all out. These women are too noisy. Affecting his extraordinary wisdom, can only be said that this group of fanatic women is not as loyal as imagined, clearly idol worshippers who love whoever wins. Afterward, Duan Yun searched the bodies of the White Sox God sect disciples at the cannon platforms. This inn was wrecked and had to be compensated. There are rarely survivors at the hands of the young hero. These 2 heavenly kings managed to escape, and these disciples have half the responsibility, deservedly dead. If they had defected on the spot, ceased firing, turned back, he might have spared them a route to live. Unfortunately, there is no if. These 4 White Sox never admitted their mistakes till death, showing unwavering loyalty. They said after death, they would be summoned by the Divine Sox and return to the homeland of the White Sox God sect, Source Palace. They are fearless of death, because they were the elite chosen by King Lu of the Divine Sect. Duan Yun indeed did not anticipate these 2 heavenly kings of the White Sox God sect would escape in this manner, as he never particularly understood the sect. The White Sox God sect, as a foreign sect, could dominate Qingzhou for years and even attempted to annex the martial world of U-State because it had no noticeable weaknesses and even innovated in certain aspects. Whether it's the usual congregations men can't see and women can't be seen, or the White Sox shocking heaven array, it's considered rare and deadly across the martial world, while the heavenly king's cultivation techniques each hold mystique. It's said these techniques emerged after sect hierarch Fang Yuqian wore white socks and held warm jade in his mouth, one day awakening extraordinary wisdom, impressing themselves in his mind, and thereby became the foundation of martial arts for the 4 heavenly kings. Moreover, veteran insiders of the martial world know that the White Sox God sect possesses core artistry. This artistry is not directly related to martial arts but is akin to the Mo sect's mechanical art, even more wild than Mo sect's. The flying sky cannon is one of the core arts of the White Sox God sect, able to launch people like cannonballs flying fast and far, and with black armor worn beforehand. As long as one is a Tongyu realm master, they won't be blown to death at most scorched black. Essential for traveling and escape. This time, King Li and King Lu successfully escaped using this. Such a bloody battle left the young hero and the 2 heavenly kings unsatisfied. The young hero was dissatisfied because he let these 2 evil demons escape, and will have to find an opportunity to kill their families afterward, wasting time. And King Li and King Lu were dissatisfied because even when joining forces, they crumbled against Old Demon Duan. One could say since starting in Lishan City of U-State, Old Demon Duan alone has shattered the White Sox God sect's battle record. Calculating this, it's almost a triple kill. Know that since the founding of the White Sox God sect, from Tianzhou to Qingzhou, rivals were rare. Yet after today, not only are they severely injured, the entire White Sox God sect cannot lift their head before Old Demon Duan. Gossip spreads from the big mouths in Qingzhou, significantly having the sect's command over the martial world's reputation across Yun and U states. Such a monstrosity like Old Demon Duan appeared in Yun and U states. It's likely only a breakthrough from the sect hierarch can harshly suppress him. Indeed, in the eyes of King Li and King Lu, they have unconsciously placed Duan Yun on an equal level with the sect hierarch. Yet the 2 still firmly believe that the sect hierarch can severely suppress Old Demon Duan, due to truly possessing extraordinary wisdom teeth. Duan Yun compensated the innkeeper with the money taken from the corpses, and also paid the breeding pig team for a sow. Strangely enough, this sow didn't die under the attacks of 3 masters and can even barely walk. This actually boils down to Duan Yun and the other 2 being masters, often using techniques that hit the bull through the pig, with the sow merely being a medium, resulting in light injuries instead. This sow is thick-skinned and tough. Theoretically, with some nurturing, it could survive. But after it said, "I want to be a hero," it seemed real, causing the breeding pig team to think it might have been tainted into a monster by Old Demon Duan. temporarily afraid to touch it. Seeing this, Duan Yun reminded them, "This pig has a heart of righteousness. Take good care of it for this young hero." Yes, yes, yes. The breeding pig team didn't dare slack off and quickly loaded the sobak onto the cart. Tonight the White Sox God sect was utterly defeated, roughly meaning the backbone of Qingzhou's martial world was crushed by Duan Yun. Thus his words naturally held sway. Calling him a temporary local emperor wouldn't be an exaggeration. Afterward, Duan Yun looked at Yun Song Yun and the others kneeling on the ground and transmitted to them again the simplified version of the 7 points to the original energy. Duan Yun looked at them and said, "Train well in the future. Whether you succeed depends on yourselves." Yun Song Yun and others knelt down in unison, loudly exclaimed, "Thank you, Duan Juxia. Duan Juxia is like a living parent to us." Duan Yun waved his hand, saying, "Stop! First of all, if you rely on my cultivation technique in the future to stir up trouble, breach righteousness and morality, don't blame me for coming after you." Upon hearing this, everyone felt a chill on their backside, hurriedly nodded in agreement. After tonight's battle, in the eyes of several individuals, his image was already akin to a deity. Duan Yun's words effectively placed a righteous shackle upon them, making them ponder carefully whether to commit evil deeds lest old demon Duan slays their family. But these individuals are considered promising seedlings. As long as they don't go astray, perhaps they might truly achieve something righteous. In summary, that's Duan Yun's thought. This time of skill transmission wasn't just spontaneous interest, but also compensation for regrets. As for Hua Wen and Hua Wu, they were a great disappointment to him. That was his first time imparting martial arts, the first time he sowed the seeds of chivalry in this world, only to yield 2 strange blooms. But as a Huaxia person, he was passionate about farming. The last planting failed, so this time he would try anew. With everything almost settled, Duan Yun looked at the horizon where the sky was turning white, knowing it was time to be on his way again. Little Een was still there, obediently listening. Before, when Duan Yun fought with the 2 heavenly kings, she had thoughts of fleeing during the chaos. But seeing Duan Yun ascend to the sky with 1 foot stepping on the other, she gave up. How do you escape such a monster? However, she hadn't been without gain. King Li and King Lu escaped using an unimaginable method. This was the first time she witnessed someone escaping from old demon Duan's grasp. It was incredibly difficult. Seeing the departing heavenly kings, little Een was even moved, because she deeply understood how difficult it was. There was once a soul slayer sword master in the martial world, known for his swordsmanship where even the souls of the slain could barely escape. In the martial world, several individuals gained fame due to this soul slayer sword master, because these individuals were survivors under the sword of the soul slayer sword master. Some of them had become crippled, some had lost all power, and some had only half a brain left, yet they demonstrated extraordinary survival skills. They were called Sword Underworld Souls, which was considered a kind of honor. And little Een felt that old demon Duan had a bit of the essence of the soul slayer sword master. At the rate old demon Duan was growing more terrifying, in the future, it would be an achievement just to escape his hands, let alone defeat him. I am a once-in-a-century martial arts prodigy. At 30, I had already made a renowned name in one state. 3 years ago, I had already defeated Elder Wang of the Great River Sect and felt a deep loneliness. I once faced old demon Duan and survived. Hiss! Imagine this typical bragging scene in the martial world. It's obvious that the third boast carries more weight. Duan Yun had already decided that after some more time, once he comprehended this new Jade Sword true understanding, he would plan to strike at the White Sox sect's headquarters. Exterminate them. They must be exterminated. Afterward, riding on little Een, Duan Yun headed towards Yun's state. Since he wanted to comprehend the cultivation technique, Jade Sword true understanding, from Hua Wu, he had to delve into the medicinal fields. Would there still be Hua Wu and the great medicine cultivated by him in Lingshui City? Returning to the territory of Yun's state, Duan Yun's emotions became peculiar, particularly on the road back to Lishui town. He had an inexplicable sense of displacement. How to describe this feeling? A wanderer returning home? A wealthy man returning home? Neither. Lishui town was his hometown. Although there were no longer family members, it was Duan Yun's starting point. Thus, it held a special place in his heart. At night, the blazing bonfire illuminated a distant tombstone. Little Een obediently roasted a wild rabbit, resembling the most dutiful maid. In her current appearance and attire, Little Een bore a resemblance to Zuxian. If she were to use Qinggong lightly drifting by night, 8 out of 10 would believe she was a beautiful ghost. Duan Yun had once encountered a female ghost under such circumstances. A female ghost from the Red House. He was terrified back then, and if he hadn't learned to use the jade sword finger stealthily, he might have been done for. And the situation tonight was oddly similar to that night, with a female ghost by his side. But his state of mind was entirely different now. If a female ghost were to visit now, he wouldn't be as scared but would be pondering how to let her leave with satisfaction. Little Een finished roasting the wild rabbit and knelt to offer it to Duan Yun. This was a posture mother used to love, said to be passed down from overseas grandmother. At this moment, she looked up at the moon and couldn't help but exclaim, "So white, so round." Setting out in the martial world for the first time to seek revenge for her mother's killer, using all her might yet unable to win, then captured as a steed, accompanying like a tiger. This was the depiction of Little Yin's debut. Thus, on this night with the bright moon hanging high, she suddenly missed her sisters. She endured humiliation and burden until now, always waiting for an opportunity. Waiting for a chance to join forces with her sisters to counter old Demon Duan. But she couldn't help secretly wondering, can we really win? The longer she stayed with old Demon Duan, the more she felt hope was dim. Even after spending so much time together and seeing old Demon Duan in action several times, she still found it difficult to gauge his depths. Or rather, old Demon Duan was bottomless to her from the beginning. The deep waters of the old demon could drown her. Could she, with her sisters, drain him dry? Little Een felt a bit of despair. After eating the wild rabbit, Duan Yun had already fallen asleep leaning against the tree trunk. He fell asleep quickly, resting peacefully, looking to Little Een like an obedient child. From this angle, old Demon Duan truly appeared handsome and pleasing, seemingly harmless. But only a mount like her would know how fearsome and ruthless this guy was. The dead and sows could be driven by him to exclaim, "I want to be a hero." What terrifying and perverted act could he not commit? At this moment, Little Een suddenly glanced toward a direction in the wild forest. There stood someone dressed in red. If a person like her dressed in white could appear like a soul-captivating beautiful ghost, then the one dressed in red in the forest was even more like a fierce specter. Little Een, having less experience than Duan Yun, suddenly felt nervous and frightened, involuntarily nudging Duan Yun. Duan Yun hazily opened his eyes, quickly noticing the enemy-like demeanor of Little Een. Following her gaze, Duan Yun raised his brow slightly. Haunted again? He stood up and said towards that direction, "Miss, are you human or ghost? We missed our lodging today, and if we disturbed you, please forgive us." Human or ghost? Sir, what do you guess? As she said this, the woman in red floated over. Yes, she floated over. Not only did she not touch the ground, but her speed was also fast, reminiscent of the terrifying scenes of ghosts in horror films. Little Een was so tense that she retreated 2 steps. At this point, Duan Yun could clearly see her appearance. She not only wore a red dress, but her hair was red too, and her eyes were emerald green, like a pool of jade. Wow, a foreigner chick. The woman stopped 20 steps away, suddenly revealing a bright smile. Yes, in a ghostly stance, but with a bright smile. The firelight illuminated the ghostly woman's figure. The ghostly woman asked again, "Sir, do you now think I'm human or ghost?" Duan Yun said, "Miss, your shadow is quite large. Naturally, you're human." At this time, the firelight already highlighted the woman's shapely figure, casting an even larger shadow on the ground. The ghostly woman laughed and said, "Lu Zhao of the Great Brightness sect, passing by, saw the bright firelight, specially came to meet. Duan Yun cupped his hands and said, Bu Jing Yun, this is my goddaughter, Little Een. Upon hearing the title goddaughter, Little Een would have loved to jump up and bite someone. A mother killer treating people as mounts, now even calling someone dad. Lu Zhao laughed and said, Sir, resting in the wilderness with such a beautiful goddaughter, you truly have a blessing. Duan Yun replied, My goddaughter is decent. Lu Zhao naturally sat down. Looking innocent, said, Goddaughter, is there such thing as decent? Duan Yun and Little Een were momentarily speechless. Seeing them silent, Lu Zhao couldn't help but say, I hit the mark, didn't I? Ah, right. Will my arrival disturb you from doing real business? Real business. That kind of real business between godfather and goddaughter. Absolutely not. Duan Yun and Little Een responded simultaneously. At this moment, the red-haired woman claiming to be from the Great Brightness sect suddenly clutched her chest, looked at Duan Yun and said, Sir, looking at me, isn't it that you want to do real business with me? Duan Yun's fist quietly clenched, remarked, Miss, do all women from the Great Brightness sect talk like this? Clearly, this woman had remarkable light body skills, suggesting she held some status within the Great Brightness sect. Lu Zhao shook her head, said, Certainly not. Most women of the Great Brightness sect pledge themselves as virtuous. I happen to be the most virtuous among them. It's just because I adhere too much to it, thus making me curious, but curiosity shouldn't break rules, so I can only verbally indulge. To be candid, many say I'm charming, but in fact, I've reached this age without holding hands with any boy. Duan Yun and Feng Linger said nothing, merely watching her. At this moment, a hint of anger appeared in Lu Zhao's eyes, said, Why? Don't you believe me? Duan Yun squinted slightly, earnestly said, I believe. Why do you believe so? Mrs. Complexion is rosy. The tongue is soft, pale red and lustrous. Tongue coating delicate, indicating regular cycle, body clean and pure. Duan Yun explained. This time, Lu Zhao was the one shocked, questioning, You are not talented. I just happen to be a gynecologist. He replied. Late at night, a stranger appeared by the campfire. A foreign woman. A red-haired, blue-eyed foreign woman. Duan Yun had to admit, this world could still surprise him a little. How many times has he encountered slightly odd women while camping in the wilderness? Lu Zhao, a young girl from the Bright sect, met them for the first time yet was quite talkative. A bit of a chatterbox. To Duan Yun, she felt like a student from an all-girls school, finally let out for a few days, who could chat endlessly once catching hold of someone, especially if it was a man. Throughout the conversation, she didn't speak much to her goddaughter Little Een, always talking to him instead. Such a person was clearly new to the martial world, and Lu Zhao admitted as much. This was her first long journey away from home, and if it weren't for a mission, she wouldn't have left the headquarters to come so far. As a veteran of more than 2.5 years in the martial world, Duan Yun couldn't help but kindly advise, Miss Lu, as someone new to the martial world, beautiful and young, you ought to be wary of evil demons. Lu Zhao tossed her wavy hair and said naively, Evil demons? What evil demons? On my way here, I haven't encountered any bad people. Maybe a few riffraff, but I dealt with them easily. Little Een squatted nearby, looking pained, wanting to speak but not daring to. No evil demons? The biggest one is right in front of you. I've even been captured to be ridden like a horse and now have to call him dad. Duan Yun sincerely said, Miss Lu, the martial world is full of hidden talents. You never know when you might encounter a master with bad intentions, so it's wise to keep your guard up. He had made the mistake of being too naive once, though fortunately, his skills were solid enough. Lu Zhao retorted, A master? You, a gynecologist, talking to me about masters? As someone from the Bright sect, a very important person, too. She knew about the so-called evil demons he mentioned, but they were just a bunch of riffraff. Upon hearing the name Bright sect, most would flee in fright, and those who didn't think straight, she would give them a piece of her mind. Although the Bright Sect had lost to the White Sock Divine Sect, it was once the #1 divine sect with deep roots and considerable fame. Moreover, Lu Zhao considered her own martial arts to be quite formidable. Hearing this, Duan Yun couldn't help but retort, "Looking down on gynecologists? Even gynecologists wield scalpels for a living. They handle the martial world as well as any Jianghu guest, wouldn't you agree?" Lu Zhao noticed that Duan Yun was speaking to her in a manner suggesting serious business. But she quickly caught on, saying, "Dr. Bu, why are you staring at me? Are you trying to examine my tongue? Or are you, as a mere doctor, arrogant enough to think you're no worse than me?" Duan Yun waved his hand. "That's not what I meant. I've just been around 2.5 years longer, so I have a bit more experience to share with you, that's all." Lu Zhao stood up and said, "Thank you for the advice, Dr. Lu, but I get the feeling that you underestimate both me and yourself when you look at me. First, you shouldn't even think of comparing yourself to me." Duan Yun was stunned and puzzled. "I shouldn't even think about it?" Lu Zhao naturally answered, "Of course, just the thought underestimates me and the Bright Sect." At this moment, even Little Een found Lu Zhao a bit off. "Not even think about it?" Duan Yun looked at her pure and slightly deranged demeanor and could only feel the overwhelming air of foolish clarity coming from her. He thought it necessary to let her face some difficulties. Otherwise, if such a woman fell into the hands of evil demons outside his control, who knows how miserable it would be. Duan Yun stirred the campfire and said, "As an older figure in the martial world, I don't mean to underestimate you, but rather think you're too naive and likely to suffer for it." Lu Zhao chuckled and said, "I've already said, Dr. Bu, you misunderstand both your and my abilities. You shouldn't be advising me in the tone of my dad. If you don't believe me, you soon will." Saying that, her figure suddenly shifted. Duan Yun squinted his eyes and murmured, "Amazing!" Because in that instant, Lu Zhao's red clothes swayed in place as if an invisible version of her was still wearing them. But her body had already moved next to him, even brushing his cheek with her hand. Duan Yun allowed her to touch him purposely and saw clearly that she was at a C+ level. But he had to admit, this movement technique of the Bright Sect was indeed sophisticated. Even he couldn't see through how she executed it. A breath later, Lu Zhao was back in her original position, with the red robe once again adorning her body. Lu Zhao grinned and asked, "Dr. Bu, do you yield?" Her smile was enchanting. Duan Yun frowned and said, "Just now." Lu Zhao teased, "Just now? I touched your little cheek. Didn't you feel it? Fine. This time I'll be a bit rougher." As soon as she said that, her red robe slipped off her body again, this time moving to Duan Yun's right side. Earlier, she had touched this doctor's left cheek, so this time, she planned to pinch his handsome right cheek. Humph! How dare he be so arrogant, thinking he could compare with me. Thinking about this doctor's soon-to-be surprised expression, she couldn't help letting out a laugh. Tee-hee-hum. Her coquettish laughter was abruptly cut off because her body, while executing the time smoke step, suddenly froze in mid-motion. As the next holy daughter of the Bright Sect, Lu Zhao's mastery of the time smoke step was highly refined, not much weaker than that of several of the old masters within the sect. When her body left the red robe, only a thin layer of silver underwear remained, relatively exposing her skin. But Lu Zhao didn't mind, because she thought that with her speed, this gynecologist could only catch a fleeting glance and wouldn't see much. As a result, she found herself unable to move. Her throat even froze, unable to make a sound. Her entire energy flow seemed suddenly locked. She moved her eyeballs and only then discovered something absurd and terrifying. That was the fact that this Dr. Bu Jingyun, who sat here all along, had somehow extended his legs, clamping her thighs. With this clamp, she couldn't move at all. By the campfire, Little Een watched Lu Zhao's panicked state from being clamped, couldn't help but secretly sigh, "Good clamp! Anyone who doesn't know would think you were flirting with old demon Duan." Stirred up trouble. Huh? For some reason, seeing Lu Zhao undressing to showcase her skills and touching Duan Yun's face, she felt a tinge of anger. Suddenly, Lu Zhao's close-fitting silver silk robe rippled with a circle of ripples. In the next moment, her right hand could move. Oh! This time, it was Duan Yun's turn to let out a gasp of admiration. The heart-to-heart clasp he learned from Yu Xinjin of the Chongling sect hadn't reached the supreme state where nothing in the martial world remains unmoved under the clasp. Yet it rare failed. Yet Lu Zhao could move under his pincers, which indeed was somewhat unexpected to her. At this moment, Lu Zhao, almost frightened to the point of exposing her underwear, instinctively activated the highest martial arts of the Bright Sect, Heaven and Earth Great Shift. This technique not only can shift others' inner strength, but her own energy can also shift effortlessly. Lu Zhao's energy flow was clamped by Duan Yun, but she still managed to shift the energy with this divine skill. As her right hand moved, her fingers, like picking flowers, aimed at the acupoint on Duan Yun's chest. This maneuver was extremely beautiful, especially with her alabaster arms and fingers, full of agility and elegance. Yet beneath this grace and charm lay great peril. This was the Great Brightness sect's flower-picking finger, said to be inspired by the first sect hierarch Lu Weilu while plucking flowers under the Three Lives tree for his wife, an elegant killing move. Seeing this, Duan Yun's heart-to-heart clasp loosened, true chi flowed, and he followed up with his finger. In just the span of a breath, the two had already exchanged 3 finger strikes. With each finger strike, Lu Zhao's thighs clamped tighter, until a muffled sound of hum emerged, sealing seamlessly. Thereupon, she was captured. Duan Yun struck a finger at her fair nape. Her half-body had stiffened, half kneeling on the ground. "Do you submit?" This time it was Duan Yun's turn to ask. Lu Zhao, face flushed, said, "Shameless, you ambushed me." She didn't expect she would be defeated so peculiarly by a gynecologist. Duan Yun retorted, "Obviously you attacked first. How is it an ambush by me?" Lu Zhao said, "You attacked when I was unprepared, and say it's not an ambush." Seeing this, Duan Yun murmured, "Seems like you're still not quite convinced." With that, he struck down another finger. This time, Lu Zhao let out a soft hum. Her face blushing, said, "I submit." Duan Yun nodded and said, "Now Miss Lu should understand the martial world is filled with hidden talents. Best keep your eyes peeled for lessons learned." Lu Zhao lowered her proud head, said, "I understand." Afterward, she spoke with a face full of humiliation. "But surely you're no gynecologist." Duan Yun refuted, "How am I not a gynecologist? This doctor is as authentic as it comes. Okay? Then surely you're not a proper gynecologist." "How am I not proper now? What gynecologist has such powerful fingers?" Lu Zhao had never thought, as the sect's rare martial arts prodigy, her well-practiced time-smoke step and flower-picking finger would be broken in such a manner by a gynecologist. In a rather baffling fashion indeed. Duan Yun explained, who said a gynecologist's fingers can't be powerful. Lu Zhao had already conceded, said, "I submit. Can you release my acupoints? I promise not to run." Duan Yun tapped open her acupoints with a palm, said, "I could care less whether you run or not, Miss Lu. I'm merely imparting some martial world wisdom to you." Even though he easily subdued her, Duan Yun had to admit, this Miss Lu Zhao's skills and inner strength were remarkable. Simply exchanging 3 finger strikes with him, and enduring his flirtatious finger strength without leaking, or with just minor leakage, was already very impressive. Letting it be known that even the Murong brothers wouldn't endure as well as she did. At this point, Lu Zhao picked up the red dress, but didn't put it on. She looked at Duan Yun, her face blushing so red. "According to the rules of my sect, you may do some things to this girl." "What things?" "The things that happen after being defeated." "Ha!" Duan Yun was dumbfounded for a moment. What did this mean, defeat CG? By then, Lu Zhao had eyes full of affection, gazing over. Littleine finally couldn't sit still, angrily scolded. "What are you thinking? If anyone doesn't know, they'd think you're his goddaughter." Lu Zhao looked conflicted, said, "Sorry, Miss Ine. These are the sect's rules. I can't defy them." Saying so, she looked resolutely at Duan Yun. Duan Yun looked at her, said, "Are you sure this is the rule of your sect?" Lu Zhao said seriously, "Do you think I joke about the honor of my sect? You defeated me today. If you don't do such things, according to the rules of my sect, not only will I forever lose the chance to become the holy daughter, but I'll also have to poison myself to death." Little Een looked at her, shocked. What degree of shamelessness must a woman have to utter such nonsense with a straight face? Duan Yun looked at Lu Zhao, said, "I merely intended to give you a lesson, so you'd avoid detours. Never expected something like this. Then come on. Come on." Lu Zhao looked at him and took another step closer. Seeing the two of them like this, Little Een couldn't help but tease. "If you two want to get intimate, just do it. I'm the only audience in this wilderness, no big deal. But do you have to act so righteous, like you're doing some heroic deed?" At this moment, Lu Zhao had already placed her hand on Duan Yun's shoulder. "Hold on." Suddenly, a voice rang out. At this time, a middle-aged, beautiful woman's figure appeared 100 steps away. Lu Zhao was surprised. "Aunt." She immediately realized there were outsiders present and said, "Elder Tang, why are you here?" The middle-aged beauty flickered and had already arrived near the bonfire, saying, "Little Zhao, it's your first time venturing into the martial world. How can we not protect you? I was just playing a couple of rounds of mahjong with Elder Li, and you've already gotten into this situation?" As the future holy daughter of the Great Brightness sect, and one of the most talented juniors in the sect, Lu Zhao had two elders secretly accompanying her on this training journey. Having two elders in the shadows for protection is standard practice for the first training of every divine sect holy daughter. They just didn't let Lu Zhao know about it. Blame it on Elder Tang's love for mahjong and coming to Yun State, the hometown of mahjong? She couldn't resist and played a few rounds intensely. She thought with little holy daughter's skills and after training outside for so long, a few rounds of mahjong shouldn't cause any accident. Who would have thought an accident almost did happen? Looking at the burning passion between little holy daughter and Duan Yun, the middle-aged beauty quickly pulled Lu Zhao behind her, respectfully saying, "Young man, little Zhao was reckless and offended you. Please forgive her." She vaguely heard the conversation between the two just now, knowing that Duan Yun defeated the little holy daughter, indicating that he had exceptional skills, and she had to be careful and respectful. Then she scolded Lu Zhao in a low voice. "You haven't even become the holy daughter yet, and you're already in a hurry to do something reckless. Are you looking to get punished?" Lu Zhao said, "But Elder Tang, according to the sect rules, if I'm defeated by a man during my first experience, I'm supposed to be punished for defeat." Elder Tang looked a bit in pain. "Oh, my dear, you misunderstood." "Misunderstood?" "Elder Tang, even if I lost, you can't joke about the divine sect rules. Losing face for the sect," Lu Zhao said with a righteous face. Elder Tang looked a bit in pain. "Did you sneak a read of that red-covered 18 Commandments of Light?" "Yes. That's an edited forbidden book. I confiscated it in time and kept it with me," Elder Tang said. Lu Zhao looked slightly surprised and muttered, "No wonder there were so many illustrations." The situation became a bit awkward at this point. Then, Elder Tang once again respectfully bowed, wishing she could lay bare her chest, apologizing to Duan Yun. "Young man, there's been some misunderstanding between little Zhao and you. It's our oversight. Please forgive us." Duan Yun clasped his hands and said, "Not at all. Miss Lu is pure-hearted. Having a senior like you watching over her, I'm much more at ease." "May I ask for your noble name?" Elder Tang asked. "Bu Jingyun." "Young Master Bu, I'm grateful for your generosity. The Great Brightness sect will remember your kindness. And if there's anything in the future where we can be of assistance, just let us know, and we will do our best." This elder took a very humble stance, and Duan Yun felt quite sensible, clasping his hands. "Elder, you're too kind. Then we'll take our leave now with little Zhao. Qingshan will not change. The green water flows on." Lu Zhao was thus taken away by Elder Tang, somewhat like a student being caught playing games at an internet cafe and dragged back by their parents. but she still wasn't quite convinced, and before leaving, she turned back and said, "Gynecologist, I remember you." Just as she finished speaking, Elder Tang forcibly covered her mouth. While smiling apologetically toward Duan Yun, Elder Tang covered Lu Zhao's mouth and dragged her away. Duan Yun watched their departing figures, sighing, "Damn! I actually thought what she said about the rules was true." He really considered sacrificing himself to save the other just then. Afterward, the bonfire crackled, and little Een sat there, looking at Duan Yun with a slightly disdainful expression. Duan Yun looked at her and said, "Why aren't you saying anything?" To be honest, after the talkative Miss Lu left, he suddenly felt a bit empty. Does this count as knowing someone from the Great Brightness sect? The Great Brightness sect and the White Sock Divine sect are archenemies, so they should know each other well. Since he intended to destroy the White Sox sect, today's meeting might not be useless after all. Maybe it's true that good deeds bring good returns. Noon, the sun shines bright. Duan Yun walks down the road, his steps light. Even though little Een isn't being ridden, her steps are equally light. Even mules have their rest time, and her not being ridden at the moment means rest. Especially after that brainless girl Lu Zhao was dragged back home by her elder last night. Duan Yun's mood became even more pleasant. Family who understands. Last night, as soon as that girl arrived, she almost shamelessly tried to get with old demon Duan, yet wore a serious face. For a while, she couldn't help but find both old demon Duan and Lu Zhao of the Great Brightness sect repulsive. It's clear that old demon Duan's mood is also very good at this moment. Duan Yun's mood is certainly great, because at this moment, the street he's walking is the street of his hometown, Lishui Town. Having been away for 2-3 years, there's not much change here, as if time has frozen at this place. Duan Yun walks among, as if he has returned to the days of inheriting his father's business, being a gynecology doctor in this small town. And all this was utterly changed by a single kick on the street ahead. Being kicked by the disciples of the Xuanxiong gang as a ball, that kick firmed his resolve to practice martial arts. He also lived up to his expectations, purely through his own efforts, leaving a humble heroic name in the martial world. Now who dares to try and kick him? Returning to familiar places, his mind is entirely different. Duan Yun likes this feeling, and his hometown small town appears peaceful, everybody living in harmony. At least after walking such a long way, he hasn't really encountered any trouble or fights. In front, the medicine shop is already in sight. Duan Yun stands in front of his dust-covered medicine shop, feeling somewhat sentimental. The window paper is torn and tattered. When he pushes the door, the hinge creaks markedly. Today's sunshine is just right. Walking inside the medicine shop, he can see the swirling dust in the air. It has been piled with thick dust here long since. The signboard inside the medicine shop, the words are no longer visible. Yet Duan Yun's heart is as clear as a mirror. For even though he has been gone for so long, he kept being a doctor with a medical practitioner's compassionate heart, only occasionally moonlighting as a young hero. One can only say the ancestral skills have not been wasted. Little Een looks at his mixed emotions and asks, "Where is this?" "This is my home, my medicine shop." Duan Yun answers, "You really are a gynecology doctor?" Little Een asks incredulously. "Absolutely genuine." Duan Yun swept the dust on the signboard, revealing the inside 4 large characters, medical practitioner's compassionate heart. Little Een couldn't help but ask, "Then how did you learn martial arts?" Duan Yun went to the backyard, recalling practicing swordsmanship here while absorbing moonlight before, and truthfully said, "Just followed a manual and practiced. That's how one learns." Tisk. Little Een was momentarily speechless. In the martial world, most experts have heritage. It's rare for someone to master peerless martial arts by just practicing from a manual. For reckless cultivation techniques, it's easy to train oneself to death, and if not dead or disabled, even if fortunate, what one learns is likely not divine skill. But old demon Duan has plenty of divine skills on him. Moreover, he is very young. Generally, within sects, with a master to guide, for one's martial arts to achieve some success, Reaching 1/10 of old Demon Duan's strength would require 30 or 40 years. Not everyone is like them 7 sisters, with opportunity to cultivate through secret techniques from the womb. And old Demon Duan so young could kill his own mother. Then those backing him could possibly be more formidable than her mother. Her defeat to old Demon Duan was likely more due to losing in a comparison of lineage. Thinking of this, little Een feels a bit comfortable in her heart. It's not that I'm useless, but mother, you're the useless one. At this time, Duan Yun notices the weeds growing quite luxuriantly under the tree in the courtyard. He knows the reason because there lays a buried corpse. That was his first kill. Killed someone with sword chi. Only to say it felt great. Duan Yun returned to his room. The bamboo cabinet used to store clothes has been eaten through by termites or the like with many holes. He opened the cabinet, then the drawer, then lifted the hidden layer in the drawer and stood stunned. The few underpants he had previously were placed in this hidden layer. Even after 2-3 years with such a tightly closed place, letting little Een wash them, they might still be wearable. But now the underpants are gone. Damn it. There's no way some pervert came in and stole my underpants, right? Duan Yun complains. The room has been accumulating dust for a long time. It's hard to determine if anyone came by. 1,000 miles away. Lang Yiming sneezed several times, puzzled. Is he thinking about me? Yes. Duan Yun's underpants were taken by her for official purposes. After all, when she needed to investigate clues back then, she had to continually smell the scent. Duan Yun pulled out a broken bamboo chair and sat down in the courtyard, letting little Een tidy up the room. Here is not far from Lingshui City. He plans to stay here for a night, relive old dreams, then set off again. Little Een mutters complaints in her mind, but her hands dare not pause. Unknowingly, she seems to have gotten used to life being squeezed by Duan Yun. Sometimes when Duan Yun doesn't squeeze her, she would feel uneasy. In the afternoon, Duan Yun takes little Een outside to eat noodles. He hasn't eaten oil-splashed noodles of Lishui City for a long time. While eating noodles, the noodle stall owner unexpectedly recognizes him, saying, "You're Dr. Old Duan's son, right?" Duan Yun nods, saying, "Uncle, it's me, young Dr. Duan. Haven't seen you for a long time. I thought you didn't live here anymore." Duan Yun says, "I don't often live here anymore." Where did young Dr. Duan go to make a fortune? Over at Wangchun City. That's a good place. Heard that noodle stalls there sell 1,000 bowls a day. Can't even imagine.